Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
100% ready to go. It's been a long time coming, and I just can't wait to be out there.
That's why we play football in the SEC, trying to go get it done.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
So let's start the show with some Florida connections, OB. There's some connections between both programs. And I know we think about them, but we haven't really discussed them. Jay Bateman used to be the linebackers coach at Florida. He expected to be defensive coordinator. We'll talk about that. Did not end up getting that. You've got Sean Spencer, defensive line coach.
Coach Chaos, yeah.
Coach Chaos, he was there, and I spoke to an insider yesterday. They said they love Coach Chaos. They just didn't have the success that Florida wanted, but he was awesome, and they didn't have the guys that A&M has. Let's see, Jaden Hill, Scooby Williams. Some connections right there.
And then some guys who are actually from the state of Florida.
Correct. And then you have, I guess, not really an A&M connection, but their potential quarterback on the weekend, DJ Lagway, was recruited by A&M, by both coaching staffs, right? Not as well, better with the Elko,
Kinda.
Last-ditch effort.
Elko, right. He tried to throw a Hail Mary. The other guy
he blew that
wasn't
one.
aggressive enough.
Right. And he could potentially be playing. I don't think he will be the starter. I think it'll be Graham Mertz in that game. I do think we will see plenty of DJ Lagway.
Oh, without a doubt.
But I don't think he starts that game. I think if Mertz is healthy, he'll be the starter in that game.
If Lagway doesn't start or doesn't play a significant amount and they lose,
he is fired on Sunday.
Probably.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I bring that all up because there are some connections. I found somebody tweeted at me, but I actually had listened to it on Monday, some quotes from Shamar James. A lot of Shamars.
It's a Shamar fest.
It's 3 Shamars, one field?
Yeah.
3 Shamars in one field. All right. So they asked him about Jaden Hill, what this matchup's going to be like going against Jaden Hill, and Scooby Williams. And I saw the quote. Okay? I saw it. It reads meaner than it came across. Okay? He says, I spoke to Webb a couple of minutes ago. If you see Jay Hill or Scooby, just run at them. I don't care if it's a touchdown. Run that way. Run at them. Now, if you watch it, we can play the video because Florida has some weird way of protecting their video, so we weren't able to download it. If you watch it, he was saying it playfully. But behind every joke, there's a little bit of truth, OB.
Well, there might, in some instances, you might even consider that a compliment, and I'll tell you why. You've heard this. You've covered football a long time. You know, a lot of coaches think if a guy has really good pursuit, the best thing to do is run at them because they're so successful at running you down from behind that you're better off just running right at them.
Well, I'm going to do a little Florida Insider info later on TexAgs.com. One of the things that we were told coming into this season, and I was just told again yesterday, was that those 2 gentlemen in particular struggled tackling when they were at Florida. They had some issues. So that's where a little bit of that comes. But the part on Twitter that people didn't see that Shamar James said, before everybody gets upset, he goes, but those are my guys. Come Saturday, they're opponents again. I wish them the best. I wish Texas A&M the best. So he was kind of laughing when he made those comments, so it's not like a direct shot. And by the way, I'm a believer, if you're a football player or any athlete at all, you do whatever you need to do to get mentally ready. And if you need to make a fake kind of theme up in your head, they left us, they're traitors, whatever it takes for you on game day, I just hope that our guys have much more of an edge on Saturday.
Yeah, I think Shamar James will just be hoping. I don't think he'll be thinking about those guys anymore. I think he's going to be hoping his defensive linemen can can create some space for him to try to run down tacklers.
Yep.
Because that's a big problem for them.
He was asked about Coach Bateman, and the question is, Bateman is there as well. What do you think about losing him? Obviously, got to step up in his career, but you get to show him something on Saturday. And his response was, "That's my guy. I say that's my life coach." Okay. He's been there since my freshman year, just helping me, guiding me in the right direction. I wish the best for Coach Bateman and his family. I want to show him a little something on Saturday. Respectful young man.
Yeah, of course.
Very respectful young man. And it does show the care that he had for Coach Bateman. Coach Bateman left there, some would say prematurely, but it wasn't because of he didn't do the right job. It was other reasons.
Well, he basically got a promotion, right? Because he is defense coordinator here. And he's with a coach that he doesn't have to worry about whether or not he's going to have a job there next year.
Now, here's the one that I like, okay? Do the ties between the two teams create a little bit more juice? Most definitely. Yes, sir.
Interesting.
So, it
Would that
adds...
be orange juice?
Huh?
Would that be orange juice
Yes.
in Florida?
Yep. I love it. I have no problems with anything he said.
None of that. No, I don't either. I just think that I would just hope that A&M doesn't need any manufactured reasons to have juice. Understand it's just a big game, and you haven't won on the road in 3 years, and you just got to get it done and all the other stuff. I like the idea that maybe Florida needs to manufacture some reasons for juice.
By the way, I don't know if you know this or if the people know this. This particular show is called TexAgs Live.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And we are presented by David Gardner's
We
Jewelers.
are.
Yeah.
We are.
We're in the brand new Rollo Insurance Studio.
It's true. Indeed we are.
It is brand new. And I don't know if you knew this.
What?
But this is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations.
I did.
So somebody said we need to change the name to the Do Hour. I was like, no, I like paying homage to to we start the day, we go.
Or they could put my initial first. We could call it the Odd Hour.
We could do that. We could.
That might be the most apropos name, but I think we should stick with the Go Hour.
Or if we could call it the Nod Hour because people were falling asleep. Nick, Olin, David, the Nod Hour.
Yeah, but I don't think Nick should ever be first.
He knows that. He knows that. Swag bag counter in the back. Anyway, by the way, I actually don't care if you need manufactured hate. I think Michael Jordan used to find manufactured hate or manufactured anger for what. Certain people respond well to that. Others don't.
No, I just hope that, like I said, that A&M, and I'm sure they do, just understands how crucial getting this victory is, and that you don't need anything else to motivate you other than the need to absolutely get a big win and end this long skid, this long, painful wait on the road, or however you want to call it, this road plague, this epidemic of road losses.
When I think about this game for Billy Napier, there's a lot of discussion out there that if they lose and lose bad, he could lose his job this weekend. I don't know if that'll be the case, but it's also an opportunity for him to keep his job. And what I mean by that is, if he finds lightning in a bottle with DJ Lagway, it's going to give hope. And let's remember the hope that A&M had when Connor went in for Max it was Max, right? In South Carolina, right?
Yeah. Actually, he went in for
Haynes?
Haynes, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I'm
Haynes was thrown across his body and pulled something.
Yeah. So
just when Connor went in. When Connor became the starting quarterback.
We knew the record wasn't going to be good. We knew at that point, there was like 3 games left in the season, I'm assuming?
3 or 4, yeah.
You had the Ole Miss game, you had the LSU game, you had the South Carolina game. I think that was,
and Florida, because he didn't start that one because he
right.
had the flu.
That's right. So you had 4 games left. But what it did was, this is what we can be next year. Look at what remember how we felt like after the Ole Miss game? Like, bro, next year, watch out. There's something it can do for a coach's, the perception of a coach, especially if Lagway is tied to Billy Napier. So what A&M has to do is not allow that to happen, right? Like, sorry, Billy, not that I want you to lose your job, but A&M needs to go down there and dominate a Florida team that is very vulnerable.
Yeah, I would be surprised. I shouldn't say surprised, because I'm not surprised if Graham Mertz starts. But to me, it just strikes me as a mistake on Napier's part. If he does start, I I think of Reggie McNeil coming in and leading A&M to a victory over Oklahoma, and R.C. Slocum say, okay, I'm going to ride with that guy. And R.C. might not have gotten fired had Reggie not gotten hurt against Missouri.
Yeah.
So I think you're at a point where, like you're saying, you've got something that people there, a guy that's gives them hope. So why would you not go all in with that guy?
But coaches are interesting when it comes to freshman quarterbacks.
Yeah, you're right.
We saw it with Jimbo. I mean, we've seen it with Billy Napier with, what was his name at Louisiana? Levi.
At Louisiana.
What was his quarterback's
name? I don't
know. Regardless, he takes his time with quarterbacks.
A lot of coaches do.
Yeah, and Jimbo did it here. And I think that is an interesting part of this discussion is he going to give full reins against an SEC opponent? He had to against Samford. He saw a glimpse of what it's going to look like, and it looked pretty good.
Now, Samford did lose to Western Georgia, which I'd never heard of, Western Georgia. I think they
Is that in the United States?
Well, it's in Georgia, the western part.
Oh, no, I thought it was in Russia.
Yeah, so, so you have to take that into consideration. But still, I mean, he's a dynamic player, a great dual threat. And again, if he starts Mertz, that's fine as long as he wins.
Yep.
But if they lose, then.
What if he starts Mertz, but Lagway plays a lot and they lose?
They'll still be wondering why they.
But you know what? If Lagway plays a lot, let's say he plays the majority and he has a horrible game, then he's going to get fired anyway, right? Like he's in a no-win situation unless he wins.
Yeah, I kind of think that the only chance he has is for Lagway to be spectacular this year, and then maybe you're thinking, hey, we got the future with this quarterback. He's our next Tebow, but what if he's tied to Napier?
Right. By the way, this is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of mornings by going to texags.com/coffee. It is made at an Aggie farm, by the way, and I talked to Guayo on the phone yesterday. He's your boy.
Yeah, Guayo Palomo, great person.
Great person, family.
Absolutely. The whole Palomo brothers, all three of them.
They're all great.
Great Aggies.
And if you want to call the show or text the show, you can do that. 979-693-1150, 979-693-1150. If you call us, we'll pick it up on the Boss Firearms hotline. Let's go around the room and say hi to the people. We go behind the glass and we say hi to a very overworked Nick Savage. Nick, good morning.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
Hey, buddy, that's a better morning today.
It is? Better good morning?
Yeah, yesterday you didn't, you were good morning.
Oh, well, good. Glad to hear.
Hey, can I give a thank you on air to your family for sending me some
of course.
Nice cookies.
Sure.
That was very sweet of them. Thank you very much.
I told them not to. I said, David's not going to eat them. Maybe if they're vegan protein cookie, like the Quest or whatever the brand is.
I had one in front of my kids. I had one. And then they ate all of them in 5 seconds.
Yeah, well, good.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Happy belated birthday again.
Thank you.
Hey,
by the way, Brandon Leone's birthday today. Happy birthday to Brandon.
Happy birthday, Brandon, yeah. But you're mentioning, the Florida player talking about how it's juice for them, and I know you know as well as I do, it's juice for Jaden Hill and Scooby. And Jaden Hill was in here yesterday actually doing a Texas Aggies United interview, and you could kind of just see it in his face and his answers, like, yeah, I'm ready to be back home. Like, I've played in the swamp. I know what to expect. I've been telling everyone what to expect. So, I mean, they should be geared up. And he said it's going to be rowdy, 2:30 ABC kick. So I think they'll be geared up and ready to go.
Hey, it's personal for Sean Spencer. He was fired, right? Like yeah, I'm going to show them what's up.
Y'all were talking about Sean Spencer.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. You don't have. No, he was saying it was personal for Florida. I forget you don't have the IFB over here. Yeah, I'm just making a comment that it's personal. It was
for
personal
all those guys?
And for Sean Spencer.
All of them. Personally, I'm really intrigued to find out what will Scooby do.
Well played, sir. Well played. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Caitlin Torn is in the hizzy. Hello, Caitlin.
Hello. Good morning.
Hizzy, I've been saying this week, I don't know why, it means house.
Yeah.
You're in the house.
Yeah, I knew that.
It's a 1993
cool.
term, yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah. Anyway, what's up?
Nothing much, but we did get a text in the YouTube chat from Sandman, who...
the Texas fan who recently has been coming after Billy.
Well, he might be for us today because he says he's got the Aggies winning 31-27 this weekend.
I'll gladly take 31-27.
I'll take any win. I don't care what the score is.
But if I were wishing for a score, 31-10 makes me feel my blood pressure would be better.
Yeah, I understand that.
It would be better for all of us.
With all the angst that's been going on, especially on road games, you would like to think that you could beat them kind of the way Miami did.
Yeah,
what was that, 41-17?
By the way, their offensive line, not good.
They got a really good center.
Yeah.
Their center's named Slaughter, and he's good.
That's always a good name.
But it's just the other guys.
Who's your favorite Slaughter of all time?
Murray.
Murray Slaughter?
Yeah, you know who that was?
No.
That was Gavin McLeod's character on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Oh.
But other than that, I'd say Sergeant.
Sergeant Slaughter, that's the one I was looking for.
Yeah, I think it was.
How about Webster Slaughter?
I liked him.
Yeah.
I would have liked him a lot better had he played for my team instead of the Browns.
He did play for the Oilers, too.
That wasn't my team. But he made his bones with the Browns.
100%. But he's an Oiler in my heart. Caitlin, anything else?
Well, I will tell you, Opie, you've gotten a lot of compliments-ish on your shirt this morning.
Oh, yeah. The old Caribbean look.
Yep. Is that because we're playing Florida?
No, actually, it was just because it's the shirt I just grabbed from the closet. I try to keep the lights off.
Yep.
Because, Irma's still asleep when I'm getting out. And I was just, this is what I happened to grab.
But by the way, before a text comes in, you're wearing, and I'm wearing Florida blue, okay? And not by design, just by accident. And no, we're not double agents. We're not really Florida, because these texts do come in every time.
I know.
It just blue, okay?
Yeah.
I don't always wear maroon on the show. In fact, sometimes it bleeds with the background. You're allowed to wear other colors.
Back in 2012, I had on a blue sweater on a cold night in Oxford, Mississippi.
Oh, no.
And I got called out over and over. Like, hey, it was warm. It was a warm sweater. I wasn't even thinking about what color Ole Miss was.
I won't wear this shirt in Gainesville, that's for sure. But
I don't wear any colors of either team when I'm actually.
I don't want to get into a fight.
It's just something that I was early in my career was told you just don't do. It's a faux pas.
Yep. Hey, when we come back on TexAgs Live, Lomas Brown.
Lomas Brown.
Yeah.
Hell of an offensive tackle.
You know where he played his college ball?
He played at the University of Florida.
Oh, so what a great guest. So Callie helped us get that
First round draft choice of the Detroit Lions.
16 years in the NFL.
He's really good. Did some ESPN work, I believe.
I don't remember him on the Bucs team that won the Super Bowl, but I think he was on that team. That's according to the folks in the back. I think Cade told us that. All right, you like to make money?
I'd love to make money.
You like making lots of money?
I would. I'm sure I would. I never have.
Well, this is true. Do you like to not lose a lot of money too?
Yes.
Low investments to make big investments, right? You need to check out PrizePicks.com/TexAgs with the code TexAgs. You will receive $50 guaranteed once you play in $5 lineups. Again, that is PrizePicks.com/TexAgs. And also, you got a free square right now. They're giving a freebie right now. Caleb Williams, every passing yard on PrizePicks gets you a win in September. So that means you get an automatic win every football weekend in September. That's 4 wins. So what is PrizePicks? They're independently owned daily fantasy sports platform that the easiest, most exciting way to play DFS. So it's you against the numbers, battling thousands of players, including the pros and the sharks. You pick more than or less than. So last week, for instance, I had 5 that I picked, and I think I made $8 because I'm cheap, right? I don't go all in. I just go, but I made money. One of the ones I missed was Quinn Ewers. I had him throwing for less than 246 yards. He threw for 249 yards. I was wrong. Had I been smarter and realized, you know what, he's going to throw for 250, I would have made some money. You can do it as well. It is PrizePicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs to start playing right now. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Our next guest played in the NFL for 16 years, but was a star at the University of Florida. To talk about this game against A&M, let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. Lomas Brown joining us here on TexAgs Live. Lomas, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great. How you guys?
Doing well.
Doing well. Thanks so much, and thanks for making a few minutes for us. So, how much attention do you pay to the University of Florida and everything going on with Coach Napier, DJ Lagway, the drama, the future, all that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, not just this year, but over since Coach Napier has gotten there, it's just been interesting to watch Florida. And I'm watching them from a distance, but, just kind of see how the program has kind of been struggling and, how we're trying to rebuild ourselves. And, man, when you get a star talent like DJ in the building, you have to do any and everything you can to make sure you have success with a guy like that. And it just seems like we're a lot of pieces away from that happening right now. So hopefully, man, things can turn around, and it's a big, big game coming up this Saturday.
Lomas, this is Olin Buchanan. From my understanding, one of the big problems for Florida is they don't have an offensive lineman like you that can be dominant. So how accurate is that? Is the offensive line a problem? And, oh, by the way, what do you think a win over Texas A&M do for Florida and for Billy Napier?
Oh, my goodness, man. I mean, again, I'm on alumni thread. And, man, those threads hadn't been really friendly from the alumni. So, it's a lot of pressure on Coach Napier to kind of get things turned around. We know they have the toughest schedule, in college football this year. So, when you don't have an offensive line, when your offensive line inconsistent, when they're not playing well as a group, I mean, that just compounds the problem. And, this Texas A&M team, especially up front, these guys will be coming to hunt. So, it's going to be a challenge on how they scheme to try to help the offensive lineman out, because that's all you can do right now as an offense is to try to help your offensive line out. So maybe draw plays, maybe screen plays, things like that where the quarterback can get the ball out of his hands fast might be effective against Texas A&M.
Talking to Lomas Brown here on TexAgs Live. Lomas, talk a little bit about just the kind of hope that DJ Lagway does give Florida, if it's in this game or at some point during the season, because A&M went through it a few years back when Connor Wigman was that star freshman that we wanted to see, and when he was inserted into the lineup, it just gave the fan base hope.
Yeah, the most important position on the field is the quarterback position. And when you get, like I say, a generational guy or a guy that's projected to be a generational guy, you have to do any and everything you can to take advantage of those talents and as quickly as you can. And the one thing, like I said, if I'm recruiting him, if I was, when Florida was recruiting him, you better believe I'm going out trying to get the best lineman in the league to protect this guy, because you're bringing in this talent. And at the quarterback position, the one thing you need is you need to be able to go through reads, especially as a young guy, so you have to have time to be able to do that. So, when a young guy is facing a consistent pass rush, it just compounds the problem. He's already there on a learning curve. Now he got these big guys coming at him. He doesn't have the proper time he needs. Everything just kind of snowballs on top of it. So hopefully what they need to do is be able to run the ball. That's quarterback's best friend. If they can establish the run game, I think that'll go a long ways to helping DJ.
So Lomas, as a Florida legend and a Florida fan and all those things, would you rather, in a game that absolutely need to win for the coach's well-being and everything, and everybody's frame of mind, would you rather go, if Graham Mertz is available, would you rather go with the experienced quarterback that had a good year last year, or the dynamic, rising, true freshman?
So I would have said I would have went back with the vet, but after the performance that I've seen from my young guy, it's kind of hard. It really is. It's kind of hard to go back to Graham Mertz right now. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be there for you. And if the talent is where it's at and he's what they've been talking about, Graham sees this in practice too. He knows how special that this young man can be. So to me, and if you did that mentally, the older guy is able to handle it better than the younger guy, I think. So my thing is, man, he showed you what he could do, albeit it was against a Stanford team, not a good team. But he did show you what he can do, and I think you have to see.
Lomas Brown with us here on TexAgs Live. Lomas, let me ask you about Dan Campbell and what he's doing there with the Detroit Lions. As a former player, a legend from there, and we love Dan. He's a legend here at A&M. Just your thoughts on the job he's doing.
That's my guy. That's my guy. Me and Dan played together 2 years when we were with the New York Giants. So that's my guy, man. It's so wonderful to see how he's just turned this. Man, you wouldn't believe. Look, he can walk on water around here. I'm telling you, man, that's how he is in the state of Michigan. Man, for the city of Detroit, man, the guy can walk on water, run for mayor, whatever he wants to do here, he can get it done, man. He's a great guy, as you guys know. Like I say, we were teammates for 2 years, and just to see him have the success, just to turn around what was dormant with football. I mean, you never thought about the Lions in postseason. That was never a thought, and now to be one of the 4 teams that they're predicting to get to the Super Bowl, and for us to have the expectations of going to the Super Bowl around here, it's just wonderful, man. And I'm going to tell you, the city has taken on his persona, man. I'm telling you, that grit, big country guy, strong guy, run through a wall first, then ask you why I had to run through that wall. That's how he got these guys playing around here, and the city's taking it on. They taking on his persona, man. The auto industry isn't going good at times. We get kicked down. We went through bankruptcy as a city, but guess what? We're standing back up. So it's just so many similarities between Dan Campbell and the state, the city of Detroit, that matches up, man. It just makes it a wonderful, wonderful marriage right now.
Lomas, great stuff, man. Thank you so much for making a few minutes, and I hope I can talk to you again at some point.
Take care, fellas. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Lomas Brown there. Awesome interview.
That was awesome.
He was great. He was very kind, gracious, had good perspective on Florida, and I love his thoughts on big country strong Dan Campbell.
Loved it. And his thoughts on on Lagway, kind of agreed with him.
Yeah.
Go with the hot guy that you're finding out about.
That interview was on the Boss Firearms Hotline, Aggie Land's premier gun and accessory shop. They've got all you need to build your next firearm. Check them out at bossfirearms.com. You see what Nick did in the background?
Yeah, and I love that.
The 9/11 background for the radio audience. Yeah.
I'll never forget.
September 22nd.
What? Oh, the day of the game.
The day of the game, yeah.
What I've always impressed with, and again, if you're listening on the radio, we're looking at the red, white, and blue out photo. Is what was that? A little bit less than 2 weeks they were able to organize that.
Look at that, man.
And how many? What other university and fan base would even try that? Not much less pull it off. I mean, and this isn't a rip on them, but like Texas, for instance, I was there at the time. They had a guy come out carrying the American flag to lead. Yeah, great. But to transform an entire stadium like that, to be able to pull that off,
it was pretty.
I just don't think anybody else could do it or would even attempt to do it.
When we come back, your buddy Kirk Bohls will talk about a game that I really don't want to spend a lot of time on, okay? It's 1998, all right? I don't want to spend a lot of time on that game. So it's part of the deal. We're talking, and then we're going to move on. That's how I roll. But by the way, I think it would be great to see you and Kirk go to 1775. Because I've seen you guys at dinner before.
Yeah.
You're like, two long-lost friends. The Golden Girls would be the Golden Boys, right? You guys there would be just enjoying all the meat, all the sides, and you'd be having a good old time. In fact, both of you would talk to everybody in there.
Yeah, it'd be meet and greet.
You're like a Walmart greeter at 1775.
I'm sure that's where my future lies.
That's your future. We have a meeting after the show about that, by the way.
Hey, if it's a meeting, then if we're bringing the meat, Kirk and I, we would go out to eat barbecue a lot.
Yeah.
When we were working here together in Austin, but we didn't have 1775 as an option. I believe if we would have had 1775 as an option, that that's where we would have been at every time.
It's not that far from Austin, right? You could do it in an hour and 4 minutes.
It'd be worth every
right?
second.
And you could do a 12-minute drive from here. Go get your meat on, go get your dessert on, get your macaroni on, queso mac and cheese on. It is open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they are sold out. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m. The phone number, 979-492-6241, or check them out, 1775txbbq.com. That is 1775txbbq.com. And we are back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is time for the Golden Boys get-together, as we always do. I think that's the new nickname for you guys. It is our Renewing the Rivalry segment with Kirk Bohls, presented by Duck Camp. Duck Camp gear is made for the people that live for moments out there where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, a time to kill, and football to watch. Check them out at duckcamp.com. We both got some great gear from Duck Camp. Yeah. They got some awesome stuff.
Yeah. Kirk should get some because he's a duck.
Well, let's go to the Boss Firearms hotline. There he is, Kirk Bohls from the Houston Chronicle. Kirk, good morning, buddy.
Okay.
Are you there, Kirk?
I am.
There you are, buddy. Hey, so here, you sent me the email yesterday about the game we were going to discuss, and we got to talk about the good ones and the bad ones. But I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't like this game. Kirk, I don't like it. In fact, I have bad memories of this game. I was in school. I remember. I liked that season. That season was fun, but that game in particular was not. So take us back to 1998, A&M versus Texas.
Well, November 27th, 1998, and that was the first year of Max Brown, a coach from North Carolina who came to be the next Del Royal, and he had one recruit on that 1998 team that was really good, and he called Ricky Williams his biggest recruit because he convinced him to come back for his senior year. You know, if this was the NIL era, you know, maybe, okay, you can see that. But when you look back, you wonder, what in the heck was Ricky Williams coming back for his senior year? Obviously, he came back, set the career rushing record, won the Heisman Trophy. So, smart decision by Ricky Williams.
I thought maybe it was for the weed.
He can get that anywhere. Come on, you know that. And you're right, David. That was a damn good A&M team. I don't know where that A&M team ranked. You know, that was their only conference title, if I remember, in the Big 12, when they went on to beat Kansas State. And, you know, that was an A&M team just chock with stars. I mean, you had Dat Wynn on that team.
Dan Campbell.
You had Dan Campbell, exactly. We know where he is now. Seth McKinney was on that team. Dante Hall. Shane Leckler was on that team. So it was a star-laden team. I think A&M was number 6 when they came into Austin on that. And it was a 10 a.m. kickoff.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? 10 a.m. kickoff, real kind of a muggy day. And it was all sitting there for A&M. They'd lost to Florida State in their opener and then won 9 straight. And it was a very good team. And Ricky Williams he broke Tony Dorsett's record in the first quarter. He had like a 60-yard run, and the celebration was on. But A&M had something to say about that, too, if y'all remember.
Yeah, well, what I remember is, first of all, I was covering the game for the Washington Post because I was stringing it.
Nice.
And
nice.
But I remember Texas was like up in the fourth quarter early, like 23-7. And then A&M comes storming back, and they make the mistake that I think a lot of teams make. I understand why they took it. They're looking at first of all, they had 3rd and goal and passed. And then a 4th down. So don't pass when you're there, because what they did was they eventually took the lead, but they left too much time on the clock. And that's the mistake that so many coaches make, is like, you're not just playing. I get it. You got to figure out a way to win the game, but you got to also understand the clock and what your opponent is capable of.
Well, but you don't know you're going to score, Olin. I mean,
well,
if you knew you were going to score.
I'm just saying you always run. You don't, in that situation, you don't want to stop the clock.
Right, exactly. And
in fact, I think they might have.
A&M finished with -7 yards rushing that day, but to OB's thought, he was right. They had like 2:20 left, and then Major Applewhite, redshirt freshman quarterback out of Baton Rouge, took them downfield.
Nickeled and dimed them.
Ricky Williams, go ahead.
Just nickeled and dimed them. Had one long pass to Kwame Cavill, but the rest of it was all 5- and 6-yard completions.
Yeah, it was. Set up the winning field goal by Chris Stockton.
Yeah.
And they ended up winning 26-24. It was a memorable game, but it'll be one that I remember for a long time.
Yeah, Mac was so impressed by the job that Major Applewhite did to win the game, like that he picked his rival to be the quarterback the next year.
Well, you remember Major Applewhite had kind of a knee
or maybe that
too.
was 2 years later. I don't know.
Hey, Kirk, what do you think about this A&M Florida matchup this weekend? Two teams that hopefully are on two different paths, right? You hope that A&M figures it out with Connor, but huge game for both teams. Huge for Florida because of what it means for Billy Napier's future. Huge for A&M because they're still trying to make something out of this season, like a memorable type of run.
Right. Yeah, this is a critical game, I think, for both teams. And the A&M is accustomed. They've been in the swamp before and won. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because, Billy Napier's kind of made the quarterback change, getting DJ Lagway in, 5-star recruit. Everybody knows about him. So, he's building for the future. Of course, so is Mike Elko now. So this is a real tone setter. Nobody wants to have, 2 losses in their first 3 games. So I'm sure Lagway is just going to, air it out. So I don't know. Do you guys see this as a high-scoring game or I don't know. It's a critical game for both teams.
I don't see it as a particularly high-scoring game. I don't think, both teams are going to be in the 30s or anything like that.
I don't know if A&M hasn't shown me they can do that.
Not against a good defense.
Right.
And I don't know if, quite frankly, if Florida has a good defense after what we saw in their opener against Miami. Because, frankly, as disappointing as A&M's first game was with Notre Dame, Florida's first game against Miami was even more disappointing for them because they weren't even in contention.
They were atrocious. So, they weren't even in the game. You're right.
You wonder, you don't want to oversell this thing or overreact, but you wonder if the loser of this game doesn't see their season start to go into a downward spiral. Now, Mike Elko could survive that.
Sure.
Billy Napier cannot.
No, he's probably on the hottest seat in America. Although Sharon Moore at Michigan's seat's pretty hot already after just 2 games after their performance last week. So I think Billy Napier's playing for his future, and I think that had a lot to do, guys, with the quarterback change. I know he's kind of said he's going to play both of them, Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. But if he hadn't started Lagway or planned to start him, I think they'd be in revolt, in Tallahassee.
Yeah. Well, Kirk, as a pretty revolting columnist that that never shies away from being critical of the coach you're covering. Would you be more critical of Napier if he started Mertz and they lost, or if they a guy who's experienced, or if they start Lagway, who's he's looked good against Samford and they lost? Right.
He's got to start Lagway. I would be very. I've never been a Graham Mertz fan anyway, so I don't think he's that good. But the one thing Billy Napier has to be selling is hope that they can dig out from this hole. And Lagway, he's kind of their Arch Manning. The thing is, Sark doesn't need Arch Manning to play, but Billy Napier does. So it better not be 50-50. As far as Lagway and Mertz.
If he does, they better win.
Well, they got to win, but
but especially if
he's going to have growing pains too.
I'm just saying, imagine Kirk Bohls covering this game, and if they played on 50-50 and they lost, but what if when they did play, Lagway actually played pretty well and they lost? Then you're saying, well,
let's see
that's
more.
What the Gators are counting on. Yeah. He's got to sell that as hope for the future because he's barely hanging on. I think by a fingernail. So,
I agree. I'd be going with Lagway all the way.
Yeah, if they lose by a significant amount or how it looks, he will be gone next week. If Lagway gives them hope, if it's a last second drive where they just don't come through and I see something, we're building something, then I think he survives that. But
I think so too.
Kirk, great job, man. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
See you, Granddad.
Take care, guys.
See ya.
Have a good day.
The Golden Boys here on TexAgs Live. All right, we'll hit a break here. We will come back with some winners and losers in college football. I cannot wait for this Bird Dog event that I'm going to be a part of. Jonathan Lusk, who was a yell leader at A&M, he started Bird Dog. It's basically an Airbnb for hunters and for ranchers. It's so cool, and I'm excited about going on my first trip. Jonathan's going to be taking me with a bunch of guys, but think Airbnb for hunting, streamlined booking process, making and finding books for finding and booking your hunt transparent and easy. Easy for the landowners as well, get more hunters to make more money on their ranches. This is just a cool way to do it. They provide all the full-service hunting experiences for corporate groups, friend groups, music, good times, fellowship. It's just going to be a cool time. And they have ranches all over the world that they're teamed up with, right? Africa, Mexico, all across the United States, obviously here in Texas. 60-plus ranches and growing. So if you're a brand new hunter like myself or a seasoned hunter, they have the consulting, and they're going to teach you exactly how to do it. Make memories by hunting in the outdoors with the good people there at Bird Dog. The website is birddogit, I-T, birddogit.com. Check it out, birddogit.com. One thing I know about OB is when we go on a road trip, he does research on exquisite places to go, and you've done some research, my friend.
Well, I've spent some time down there in the Tampa area.
You know my Tampa story, right?
Well, yeah, you went there for a job interview, right? With like the
home shopping network.
Home shopping.
Could you imagine me selling some gemstones and like, look at this cubic zirconian?
Yeah, some righteous gemstones.
Right? Yeah, I didn't get that gig. So I'm here at TexAgs Live.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing that you didn't get that one.
It was early. It was before I was actually a broadcaster. It was when I was trying to break into broadcasting. And it was actually a sports show that they did on the Home Shopping Network. It was like a sports talk show, but then you'd sell in the middle of it. So kind of like what we do here, right? Like, All right, but look at this awesome jersey from, Lomas Brown. Get it right now for $49.99, 5 easy payments.
Yeah, Lomas Brown, I'd take that jersey.
Does your generation, Caitlin, know about the Home Shopping Network? Is that even a thing?
No, I have no idea what that is.
You have no idea what I'm talking about?
No.
All you know is Amazon.
Yes, I love Amazon.
I've never personally watched the Home Shop. Have you ever actually bought something or watched it?
No, we had something way back when I worked in the newspaper in Longview. We had something similar, and we had a guy that would come on, and I think they called it cable trade, and people could come in. But what happened was it got to be summertime, and you know what happens in summertime?
It gets hot.
Kids are home from school.
Yeah.
And so we started getting, let's just say, obscene phone calls.
Okay.
And one day he finally had enough of it. The guy in charge, his name was Dub, and he looked at the camera and he said, "The Gregg County Sheriff's Department's on this. We're going to find you who's doing these calls, and you're going to spend some time incarcerated, and you're going to be embarrassed, and your family's going to be embarrassed." So just think about that. The next call, somebody said, "F you, Dub."
Oh, my goodness. Hey, so in the last minute and 30 of this segment, I wanted to do winners and losers of college football. And I'm sorry, I'm enjoying Deion struggling. I'm enjoying it.
Well, like I said, I always thought of it as a curiosity, and we're starting to figure out, okay, we don't have to be curious anymore. It's looking more and more like a failed experiment.
So watching that Nebraska game, first off, they're right. Dylan Raiola does look and act like Patrick Mahomes. Like there's a lot of Patrick Mahomes. Not that he's at that level,
right?
But it became too much during the broadcast. Every 5 seconds they were showing a little bit of that. But he does throw like him and move like him.
Yeah, let's see if he can do that against a better defense than Colorado's.
Who does Colorado have this weekend? Do you know?
They have Colorado State, big rivalry.
Huge rivalry.
I think that game went into overtime last year.
The coaches don't like each other, if I remember correctly.
I think that may be true.
Yeah. OB, good stuff, buddy. Thank you very much.
You bet. Enjoyed it.
See you tomorrow. All right, in hour number 2, Chris Doering is joining us. Jamie Morrison is joining us. Max Wright is joining us. Hour number 3. How about this? Ryan Brauninger, Michael Earley, and Juan Haris. We'll have John Harris actually at 10:35 today, usually at 9 o'clock. That and, of course, your phone calls and text messages on the Boss Firearms Hotline, 979-693-1150. It's TexAgs Live. We're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. Chris Doering of the SEC Network and, of course, a Florida alum. Played in the NFL for a while. Let's talk to him here on the program. Chris, good morning, buddy. How you been?
I'm good, man. Good to be back on with you, brother. Here it's a little weird here with our schools being at odds this week, but excited nonetheless to talk about this game.
Yeah, man. I don't think you've been on the show. Well, I know you haven't been on the show since we changed the studio. So we've Nick, see if you can show them like the far view. Look at this brand new studio we put together. Burns, I think, saw it over the weekend, but I want you to check it out. It
looks good. Yeah, you guys are balling out there, man. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, man. Hey, let's talk about this matchup too, because there's the obvious storylines, the Billy Napier, the DJ Lagway, but when you think about what this game can mean for either program moving forward, a win and a loss, kind of take both paths for Florida and both paths for A&M.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge sense of urgency that exists for both teams. Florida's a little different. The loss to Miami was embarrassing in so many ways. I think the biggest issue for Florida fans was that, hey, we got manhandled on the lines of scrimmage, and Miami's a team that's probably built much like most of the SEC teams you play. So, not being able to be prepared for that game, not being able to hold up physically for that game, how does that project for the rest of the season, particularly within the SEC? And then, I think for the Aggies, you look at that Notre Dame loss after week one, I said, hey, that's not a bad loss. You're probably going to see Notre Dame in the playoff, and then they lose to NIU. And I think that certainly changes the way we look at the week one loss to the Irish. So I do think there is a sense of urgency with the Aggies coming down here to Gainesville. It's going to be hot. It's going to be loud. It's going to be humid. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun, man.
Chris, does a win on Saturday, I guess, keep Napier's job alive for maybe the whole season if Lagway balls out? If he loses and it doesn't look good, could he be gone by next week? What do you think it is for Billy here in the short term and then long term?
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily is going to one way or another decide the future of Billy Napier. But, I do think if there are signs of improvement on the things that were plaguing Florida against Miami, some disorganization in the secondary, not being on the same page for motions and shifts, busts and coverage, those things, I'd like to see those things get cleaned up. From a game plan standpoint, I want to see more crispness on offense. I want to see more rhythm, very little rhythm. But you can't have rhythm when you can't protect your quarterback. You can't run the football. I mean, Florida had a 71-yard run from Montrell Johnson against Miami, and it was largely because of a safety misfitting and not setting the edge on the outside. So Florida's got to find a way to, figure out what their identity is going to be on offense and be on the same page on defense. And so I think if you see some aesthetic improvements, maybe that gives you a little bit of confidence. The Lagway thing has definitely created optimism for Florida fans. But honestly, I don't think it's the best thing for him to be the starter. I think you get Graham Mertz back in there as soon as he's cleared from concussion protocol. He's your starter. He's the guy that's going to take the majority of the reps. And then you let Lagway sprinkle in with things that he can do to help benefit the offense.
Why are people so out on Graham Mertz, who coming into the season was one of those guys that all the analysts were talking about, like this guy could potentially be in the top 6-7 quarterbacks in the SEC, and he may still be able to do that, but maybe it's because of the hope of Lagway?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of all of that. The fans' favorite player is the backup quarterback in any and every team, and it's even more so that with Florida when he's a 5-star guy that you've been talking about for years during the recruiting process, and I think hope is one of the strongest powers in our universe, and so Florida fans need hope right now, and they saw some flashes of what Lagway can be against Samford. But I think the thing that fans need to remember is one, not only is the talent level significantly different between Samford and Texas A&M and the other teams in the SEC, but the game planning, they were able to pare down the playbook significantly for Lagway in that game against Samford. But going up against a Mike Elko-led defense, we know how good he is at scheming. We know how attacking the front seven can be. I don't think it's the best thing developmentally to put a young freshman in that position and one, expect him to lead you to victory and on to success this season. And two, to put him behind an offensive line that really can't protect him just from a health standpoint. So Graham Mertz was a 73% passer last year. He only threw for about 55% against Miami. Did not look sharp. There were some plays that were there to be made. It was probably his worst game as a Gator. And I think in a lot of Florida fans' minds, it's like, oh, he is what we thought he was going to be when he was coming over for Wisconsin, rather than looking at how good he was in the totality of last season.
Talking to CD, Chris Doering here on TexAgs Live. Chris, I don't want to misquote you, but I remember there was a show, I was driving into work one morning where you and Burns, and there was somebody else with you, talking about quarterbacks in the SEC. And if I remember correctly, you weren't as high on Connor as PB was. And what was your reasoning? And do you feel...
Let's shift it the other way. Shift it the other way. PB makes these statements absolutes, like the greatest of... He's like Trump in a lot of ways in that way. So I think what you heard from PB, I think it was probably the day that we were doing a crossover with Dusty and Danny.
Yes.
And he went on there. This was opening week, and he said, the best quarterback on Saturday is not going to be Carson Beck. It's not going to be, Graham Mertz. It's not going to be whoever. It's going to be Connor Wegman. And that piqued all of our interest a little bit. I'm high on Connor Wegman. In the preseason, I had him in my probably top 6 or 7 quarterbacks. It was a disappointing effort against Notre Dame. Obviously, I think it's a very similar situation to what Graham Mertz was going through. And you can't protect your quarterback. You can't get into a rhythm. I've been disappointed with the receivers from A&M the last 2 weeks. There's names that we know that we have seen be productive that just haven't gotten going yet. But I'm not down on Connor Wegman at all. I like Connor Wegman. I just didn't like him as the number 1 quarterback of opening weekend.
Yeah, I get that. And how much of your opinion has changed on Connor based on the Notre Dame game? Or is that Notre Dame game maybe just a bad day at the office for Connor?
You know this, man. It's easy to overreact, good or bad, to what you've seen in the first week. I got called out by Shane Beamer for overreacting to their offensive line being terrible in week 1. He said they weren't terrible. I still think that they were kind of terrible, but they were better against Kentucky. I'm not ready to freak out yet. Connor Wegman's only played a handful of games as a college quarterback, and so I think there needs to be a little patience there. But I think there was so much talk about him and what he could be and what this team could have been last year had he not gotten injured against Auburn, that anything short of what we built up in our minds was going to feel like a failure. And then when you only throw for 100 yards and the offense struggles the way that it does, I think it further magnifies that. So I'm not ready to throw him out on the trash heap. I think he's a very talented quarterback. He just needs to get more reps and need to have more patience from the fans as to what this team can become, what the offense can become, and what he can become specifically.
Talking to Chris Doering here on TexAgs Live. Chris, let's talk a little bit about that game you mentioned, the South Carolina game, but now against LSU. I don't know what I have or what we have with South Carolina, right? Because maybe Kentucky's just horrendous, maybe. And I don't know what we have with LSU. They're 2-0, but they have 1-1, but they didn't look great against USC, and they obviously didn't look great against Nicholls State, but they ended up getting the victory. So when you look at this matchup, how hard is it to kind of pick somebody here?
Yeah, it's really difficult because, again, it's easy to overreact to what we saw. But the thing that I think we've seen a larger sample size of is how good South Carolina's defense is, particularly the edge guys, Stewart and Kennard. Those guys have been tremendous. That entire defensive line was disruptive. And again, how much of that was Kentucky's offensive line struggling versus the way that South Carolina made them look? Had 5 sacks against ODU and, again, another 5 sacks against Kentucky last week. When I turn the tape on, man, I see a defense that's flying around, that's playing with a lot of discipline and execution. I see them hitting. I really believe in South Carolina's defense. I don't know what we've got in terms of Lenore Sellers, their new quarterback, or what we have on the offensive line for sure. So it's going to be an interesting test. I'd like to see that LSU offensive line against South Carolina's defensive front. LSU's offensive line has been a little disappointing with as much as we built them up to be with Campbell and Jones at the tackle positions. Not as dominant against Nicholls as we probably thought they could have been, and even gave up some pressures in that game against USC. So I think that's kind of the matchup that I'm looking most forward to.
So obviously not to overreact, but the Bama-South Florida game raised some eyeballs for about 3 quarters, and then Bama did what they had to do. Is this matchup in Wisconsin a little bit more difficult than what we expected maybe going into the season?
I think it is. And let's not forget, I think we all kind of overreacted last year after the South Florida game. Or maybe we didn't overreact. I think it was actually the catalyst for some change that led to them making that run to the playoff and ultimately the Rose Bowl appearance. But I do think there are some things that, again, concern me that came out in that game against South Florida. Their offensive line was not great. For 3 quarters, they ran for an average of 1.6 yards per carry. Jalen Milroe, whose greatest asset is running the football, had 12 carries for 2 yards. You fumble the ball, turn it over 3 times. Inconsistent. It's 21-16 with about 6 minutes and 45 seconds left in that game. And anybody that didn't watch it looks at the box score and says, wow, dominant performance by Alabama. But it was anything but that. The penalties, maybe one of the most curious things to me, 13 penalties for 120 yards. Those are things that even in Nick Saban's last couple of years seem to be issues. Untimely penalties, offensive line and inconsistent play, sacks, Jalen Milroe, completion percentage. Those things are all still there. So I do think it's a little concerning as you head to Wisconsin this week.
CD, in your, I think, 10-year career in the NFL, did you go against Deion ever? Did he ever cover you? Do you remember any interactions with Deion Sanders at the NFL level?
So my last couple of years in the league were with the Steelers, and Deion was there in Baltimore at that time. So we had a couple different – one of the things that stood out to me watching him line up, I don't know that I ever went directly up against him. I was out on the field against him, but just how big, much bigger than what I remember thinking he was. And obviously certain guys with a presence that you just kind of feel when you're out there on the field with them.
Do you find yourself rooting for him, rooting against him, or maybe a curious spectator with the antics of all the eyeballs that he does bring to Colorado? He does do that. He's got some players there, but obviously I don't think the splash is equivalent to his mouth.
It's so funny, man, because I think it waxes and wanes on a daily basis. You know, I mean, let's not forget this guy's a Florida State guy, so I didn't love him as a Florida State player. But when he got into the NFL and Major League Baseball, I wore his baseball spikes back in the day, and you know, you always kind of wanted to tune in and watch what Deion was going to do just because of his fantastic athletic ability. Yeah, I was kind of turned off by, you know, what happened when he arrived in Boulder and kind of cleared out the roster in the manner that he did. I do like a lot of what he does in terms of the encouragement and speeches that he gives his team. But, you know, I'm curious as to whether there is actually any substance. Is this a sustainable situation? Once his son is gone and Travis Hunter's gone, like, what does this team become? And so I wonder how much the Colorado fan base is growing tired of some of the antics without a whole lot of actual substance on the field.
CD, we got Georgia and Kentucky, and my goodness, we kind of touched on Kentucky a moment ago, but you know, Georgia's got, I think, a pretty tough schedule overall. Obviously, the week in Austin is going to be very interesting, but is this going to be back-to-back weeks for Kentucky just to get pummeled?
It feels that way, but I predicted that South Carolina was going to get pummeled by Kentucky, and it didn't go that way. Let's not forget, I think Missouri probably has been the most competitive team with Georgia the last couple of years, but Kentucky's been right there too. For whatever reason, the matchup has not been one that has been that disadvantageous for Kentucky. Some close ball games in each of the last 2. I imagine that Coach Stoops' team rallies considerably. I know on the offensive line there was an illness to one of their players in the pregame and some injuries as well. They've got to be, anytime you play a Georgia defense, you got to be able to protect and be better than what they did, obviously, against South Carolina. But I wonder about Brock Vandagriff. You know, going back against his former team, did not look good against South Carolina. How much does he press against that defense to try to make plays? That's the last thing you want to do against the Bulldogs. And I imagine that Kirby and the rest of that staff knows a thing or two about how to attack Brock Vandagriff. So I think that'll be kind of the interesting thing to watch. CD, when it comes to Sark, before last season, I was like, I don't think he's that good. Like, he's an offensive genius, yes, but like, he's been a career 500 coach. They dominate last year. I give them props. A Big 12 schedule, yada, yada, yada. But this year, they've started off like, you know, as one of the top 2-3 teams in the country.
And I think this year could go a long way in defining the way we relook at Sark. What do you think about the job he has done early on with Texas, unfortunately looking as good as they do?
PB and I had this conversation on Monday. Outside of Kirby Smart, I have to imagine that you'd put Sark as the second best coach in the league right now. I mean, I loved him when he was at Alabama as an offensive coordinator. What he did to scheme guys open, what he did to create mismatches, what he did with some of his route combinations and play calling. It really was one of my favorite coaches in the league at that time. Goes to Texas, gets them to the, within one play of going to the national championship game. And then this year, I thought, can they possibly live up to all the hype everybody talking about in the offseason? But they have exceeded it in my mind. A dominant performance on Saturday, albeit against kind of a shell of that national championship team in Michigan last year. But I like their versatility of what they can do. They can beat you throwing the football with largely a bunch of guys that weren't with Quinn Ewers last year. They decided they were just going to pound Michigan in the second quarter and impressively, dominated the line of scrimmage there. Yeah, I'm very high on Sark, and I think it's almost like Lane Kiffin. I think both of those guys kind of have parallel careers where there was, some early flashes. They were really good and both kind of flamed out a little bit and have been back on this rehabilitation tour and now have found their footing and seem to be comfortable in their skin and in a great place to be able to take advantage of all the experience that they've had over their career.
Chris, last one for you. I want to go to the ACC for a minute because you saw Miami up close when they took on Florida. At least you were paying attention to that game, I know. Are they the best team in the ACC based on what we've seen so far and also the trajectory of what we've seen from Florida State and potentially Clemson as well?
Yeah, I think they are. And I was not buying all of the hype in the preseason. I wasn't buying Cam Ward. I wasn't buying, all this improvement on the lines of scrimmage, but I watched it firsthand. And they are a complete football team. You wonder how much the Mario Cristobal factor, the in-game coaching is going to affect. Like, I still have questions about that. But I think they are very much built like an SEC team, and they very much have a Heisman-worthy quarterback in that conversation in Cam Ward. I think they breeze through that league this year. I think they're the champion of the conference and get a bye for the first round of the playoff. Interested about Clemson, though. They come back and they put together like a 35-point first quarter against App State. I don't know much about App this year, but I know they're a proud program that puts together a competitive team usually every year. So maybe they found something, but just curious to a little skeptical, I'd say. Haven't seen enough of Cade Klubnik looking good in that offense to be able to really feel solidly about that. So I'll take Miami over the field in that league.
CD, great stuff as always, my friend. Thanks so much for making time. Hope to catch up soon.
Yeah, man. Always great to be with you. Appreciate it, man.
See you, bud. Chris Doering there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Good friend of the show, great guy. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with Jamie Morrison here on TexAgs Live. Right now, Milliken Reserve time. Farm-to-table community. They got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community around nature. Let's talk about the events because they always have cool events there at Milliken Reserve. Farm Stand, September the 14th. That'll be fun. Gardening 101. Yes, Caitlin, you're doing Gardening 101. I always sign people up for that. Seed Swap Luncheon. Not really sure what that means, but we're going to swap seeds. All right, cool. We also have the Sunrise Coffee at the farm. Good times there. The Volunteer at the Farm, Day at Play. These are all cool events that you can go to at Milliken Reserve, but you don't have to live there. Although it's an awesome community to live there. They got great real estate. You'll love it. You'll see all the animals you love, the white-tailed deer, the songbirds, the rabbits, the turtles, you name it. And again, they just want you to enjoy nature, be outdoors, and be together. The website is millikenreserve.com. That is millikenreserve.com. Go check them out. All right, we are back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Jamie Morrison is in studio to talk a little Aggie volleyball. 4-0 start, my friend. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I think obviously the record is great, but just the way we've gone about it, we've been playing really good volleyball. And I thought these 2 matches last week just didn't really let people have a chance to come in and beat us. Or when we did, we came back and were able to close out sets in some pretty great ways.
There's a theme this week on the show because football took on, I would call it an inferior opponent, and it's hard to read into those games, right? And soccer, they took on a good team, but a team that they should beat. And I still think there's so many valuable lessons in those matchups for you. Like, it's not necessarily the caliber of opponent, right? Sometimes it's the way you're going about your business.
Yeah, and I think it's harder sometimes to play those matches. And it's harder to play those and be good, because you're not pushed to that. You're not held accountable to that. And when, you're playing, let's say, a top 5 team in the country, they're going to make you pay for making a mistake. Whereas you have to be the one that holds yourself accountable in these. You, as a coach and as a player, have to be the one that says, hey, like, this isn't going to be who we are. We're going to be this team that does these things in an extraordinary way and do it time in and time out, regardless of who you're playing. And that's where I'm most fired up about the way we're playing right now, is we're just not giving people a chance to play against us.
How do you bottle that up? Because there's a grind in a season, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, there could be some bumps in the road. And remembering this is how we did our business then, and also evolving as the season needs you to evolve.
Yeah, I think you can push. I think one of the ways we do it, we actually did something in practice yesterday of just keeping it fresh. We just had a time for them to experiment and be creative. So I think you keep practice a little bit fresh in that way to make sure that, hey, these things are going about. But then again, I think you're very specific to what the core principles of your program are and hold people accountable to those every single day and don't vary from them. I think sometimes you think, hey, these things are locked, we're going to move on to this. When these are the things that are causing us to be great, we're going to keep getting better at them. We might add one little thing here and there, but we are going to hit these at least twice a week.
Sam sent me a note. Logan's had 12-plus kills in every match so far, hitting at 400%.
If you look at just the SEC right now, she's the 3rd most efficient hitter in the conference, and she's 3rd in kills. And those 2 things don't usually high volume, your efficiency comes down. And I've said it in here, I think kind of in vagueness, but just her ability to be smart when it's not there is the thing that's causing the efficiency to be high. And just, she's got one of the best arms in the country. She's one of the best players in the country, and that's what's causing the kills to be high. So she's learning how to be an efficient hitter day by day right now, and learning the back row game too, in terms of how to hit back there and where to hit and how to hit deep. And I tell her every single day I'm fired up with the progress and growth that she's shown.
Oh, and another note Sam sent me, before yesterday's match, the team ranked 2nd in the country in assists per set, 2nd in kills per set, and 4th in hitting percentage.
Yeah, and I said this during my press conference earlier in the week. I think if you rewind to the beginning of this, the 3 littles that we have on our team right now, Ava, Ellie, Tatum, like, they're the bedrock of what's going on. And I think that's one of the metrics. And again, one of the things I have a problem with, the way we keep stats, we don't look at passing. We don't look at how often we're put in good situations. And I just think those 3 have caused us to be able to be there time in and time out, which has made life easier on our setters, which has made life easier on our hitters. And I'm not like saying any of that isn't. It's this team effort, but it goes back to that at the beginning. And that's the thing I think that makes us really hard to beat.
I like how you said that the littles are the bedrock of everything you do and of the future. Right? Like it's a right now thing, and how much better are they going to be a year or 2 down the road?
And that's, we were talking before we came on air, and just we're so much further ahead of where we were, and there's a development piece, and just that ability to pass the rock is really, really important in our sport, and I think we're one of the best in the country at that right now.
How much fun is it for you? And I know you love your job, and you love volleyball, right? So there's that part of it, but there's also the part of, I love doing this, but I love seeing the work pay off, because there's so many lessons, and sometimes it doesn't happen fast, but when you stick to it, it does pay off eventually.
I think in all facets of what we're doing right now is the volleyball piece. Hey, these are the core principles that we're going to operate by, whether it be culture or whether it be technique of the game. And it's starting to, again, I think I came on the air earlier and talked about this movie in your head, and you're like, it's starting to look like that. Okay, it's working. That's awesome. I think the other one, just 4th highest attendance in Texas A&M volleyball history on Friday. And again, I come on this program, and it's my one way to reach out to the 12th man. But man, not only was it a large amount of people, it felt like more people than it even was, just because it was electric. And I think we're creating a really cool atmosphere in there. We pulled in some stuff from the FIVB, where I come from, with a monster block and super spike and a couple things to get the crowd interacting with what's going on. And our players were mimicking it when we got a block in practice yesterday. And it's cool to see those things kind of take shape, and the little pieces of work that we put in over time are starting to add huge benefits.
No chance she has seen Field of Dreams, but it fits perfect here. If you build it, they will come, and you are building a program, and Aggies have a special way of paying that off.
Yep. And again, I say it over and over again. That's why I came here. There was a couple little bits and pieces that I saw in places where I'm like, man, if we build this into what I think it can be, it'll come, and it's coming.
Let's talk about the Invitational coming up.
Yeah. 3 more chances to come and see this amazing team play volleyball. So play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You probably have the times, if I remember correctly, it's 6:30 and 5 and 2, if I remember correctly. But
you want to double check that for us?
I'm taking it one day at a time. I know I got practice today, so but some chances to come out and see this team and see the work that they've been putting in. And again, I think the environment that we're creating is fun, so I encourage people to come out.
People always say that, and I don't know if they can all do it. I think coaches do it, but taking it one day at a time, like in what is it's a sprint marathon season, right? There's a lot of action in somewhat of a short period of time, but it's still a long way to go. How do you keep players with that same mentality of like, don't think about Saturday right now. Don't think about Texas in a couple of weeks. Think about right now.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I think it's the way you go about preparing, I think, a little bit. We tend to spend the week really focused on us for the majority of it, and then we'll get to one team. And these are always the hardest. When you have 3 matches in 3 days, it's again, going back to my national team roots of like, you play a game, and that night you're doing scouting for the next one, and then you got to turn the page, and then you got to turn the page. And that's a skill, just like passing, just like serving, is can we go and do this and be business-like? And I talk about, I don't know, being assassin-like in these of if you're, I don't know, on SEAL Team 6, for example, like you're just dialed into, I'm doing this. Okay, now I'm going to let go and take a breath. Okay, now I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And those take a lot of reps.
You say SEAL Team 6 and I just smile. You're speaking my language there. How about just overall the vibe around the program, right? When you have recruits in town, when you talk, I mean, it feels like arrow pointing up internally, but externally too, right?
Externally, yeah. I think the thing, again, going back to all of this and these pieces, and we have a top 5, and whenever it gets, I don't know, signed, we can talk about the individuals in there, but recruiting class coming in. And we put a lot of work, and I give Lindsey Walton a lot of credit for kind of what happened in that. But that's a piece of it. And then again, things are going on with our crowd, and we get people coming in here, and all of a sudden everyone's being like, man, this, I don't know, sleeping behemoth that people told me about when I took the job is waking up. And I think that's a general feeling around the country. And
let's talk about winning and what it does. Like everybody wants to win. That's not what I'm saying. But there's like we got to keep it going. Like it's contagious. It's, you got to do the work, but like winning breeds more winning and more hunger.
Yep, it breeds confidence in that. And also, we talk a lot about when we go into practice, there's a flame that creates change. And when you win, that flame gets a little bit hotter, and you can make a little bit more change because people are fired up because this is working. So I think it's keeping that momentum going, but at the same time, also understanding, like, I hope we go undefeated.
Right.
But how we respond to that first L, if it happens, is the thing that's going to matter the most.
Yep.
Do we get back in there and get extra hungry because, hey, we want to go back to being this team that was winning? Or do we let it affect our confidence and have us go the other direction? And that's the true test right there of culture of what happens in that moment.
Jamie, I appreciate you, sir.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, man. All right, right now we're talking about FBS Appliance and their team of experts. They're here to help you find the appliance that makes your house a home. They have all the top brands you can imagine. But one of the great things that they do is, like when you get appliances at your home, we got ours from them, right? We got our washer and dryer and fridge. They will have you do a video of your home so they know exactly how to maneuver when they're bringing in the appliances so they don't scratch up your walls. They know what equipment they need before they get there. They don't have to make phone calls and come later. They have the best customer service. They do great work, and they've got 8 showrooms across Texas. We use them, and I'm telling you, they are the absolute best. Again, 8 showrooms across Texas. Visit them online at factorybuilderstores.com. That's factorybuilderstores.com. Apparently, I was talking with my microphone off. Max Wright, make fun of me. Go ahead. Do it. Say something here on the Boss Firearms Hotline. You can make fun of me for not having my mic on. Can I tell you why?
Why?
Well, I went
to
the... Yeah, I got you. I went to the restroom, and
I'm sorry.
I turned off my mic because I now have this law, right? So it's different. We used to have the stick mic, and I don't want people to hear me washing my hands or, whatever's going on. So I turned it off, and I forgot to turn it on. So I made the big mistake today, Max.
You're just being courteous. I appreciate you being courteous.
Talking to Max right here on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Max, I want to look at Florida. We're looking ahead, but just for a moment, give me a player's mentality when you're coming off a loss and you take on a quote-unquote cupcake, how you look at that game, how you prepare for that game. What's typically a player's mindset in today's era of college football?
So, anytime you get a chance to come in and, play a game against an FCS team like McNeese, you look to go out and dominate, and that's just what we did. I think that it's reassuring to go out there and see the explosiveness of the offense. And, as a player, you like playing those games, but, with the tough loss coming early in the year, you look for a game against a team that is going to, boost your confidence going forwards. It's great to get some wins, and a win is a win. That's great, but no one in the locker room is hanging their hat in this game, and no one, is even thinking about that game the next day. Really, it is looking ahead towards Florida, and I think a big step for this team to make is to prove to the nation, hey, that Notre Dame game was, first game of a new era and was just a draw by us. We are a much better team than what we showed. So I think that they're excited. They're hungry. I've been a part of some opening season losses or opening game losses in seasons. And, it frustrates you and it lights a fire under you. So I think that they know that this game is important, with the struggles in the past and not being able to win road games and with, just the pressure of this team wanting to be a really good team in the SEC. I think that they're feeling that and they're ready to go to an away game and hopefully dominate. So,
talking to Max right here on TexAgs Live. Max, what did you think of Connor when it comes to his poise, his presence, his footwork? Do you feel like we can turn the page on that first game, or are you still like, I think so, but let's see what happens against Florida?
Yeah, I think that he looked much better in that game. I think that he was really efficient. We didn't get to see a ton of him with him only really being in there for just over a quarter and a half. 11 for 14 with 125 yards is a solid outing for a quarter and a half. Just to think if he would have played the whole game, he would have been over 400 yards, which is great. But I think you definitely want to see him against some better talent and against SEC talent. And I think that this week is going to be the perfect chance for him to get to showcase, hey, that first week in Notre Dame was a fluke. That's not who he is as a player. That's not me. I know that he's coming in thinking that. I think that, this is definitely reassuring. And hey, Connor's the Connor that we know. But I'm definitely looking to see how he performs this week against an SEC opponent in the Swamp, big away game during a primetime slot. So I think that Connor's going to do great, and he'll showcase, who he is and who we thought he's been all along. I'm excited to see how he plays against Florida, and I think that it's going to be a big thing for him moving forwards.
Max, I can't remember, but have you ever played in Gainesville? I don't think you have, or have you one time? You haven't, right?
I have not. No, sir. No.
What have you heard about the Swamp and the kind of atmosphere it might be?
So talking to I've been at A&M for a long time, so I had a chance to be buddies with a lot of players who have played in the Swamp. And man, it's a hostile environment. The Gator Chomp is definitely something that kind of, is what you've seen guys do that your entire life as a kid growing up playing football, even if you really weren't a Florida fan. So, there's a lot of history with the Swamp, and it's definitely a loud environment with a ton of people. Their fan base is hostile. So I think that it's a hard environment to play in, but it's one that, I expect our guys to go in and play well. And, you look at how Miami played in that stadium week one, they came in and really did a great job of getting ahead early and stepping on the gas. And I think that's the key to playing in a big stadium like that is you got to come out fast. You can't let the fans become a factor in the game. You have to take them out of the game by coming out and scoring touchdowns and, holding their offense and just trying to take the fans out of the game is going to be big. Because if you do let the Swamp become a factor in the game, it can be hard to bounce back from. So,
talking to Max Wright here on TexAgs Live. Max, let's talk a little bit about the tight end group. We haven't seen a lot from them, but what you have been able to see, what do you think?
I think that they're coming along nicely. I think Trey Watson is a really good receiving threat, and I think that they're progressing in the blocking game, which is going to be a big part of the run game for that group. I think that they are plenty talented, and that they have really good depth to go out and be able to rotate through guys. You have Donovan Green, Theo, Trey Watson, Calhoun, the ECU transfer. I mean, there's 4 guys who can play in SEC ball and who you can rotate through. So I think they're all a really good group. But I think that moving forward, hopefully we get to see some more production from them in the receiving game, and then also I would like to see them do a little bit more in the run game as well. I think that against Notre Dame, some things were kind of shown as there needs to be some progression in that. But first game of the year is always a game where you can kind of wake up. So I'm excited to see how they react against Florida.
How big is this game, in your opinion, for A&M? We know it's big for Florida because there's a lot at stake for Billy Napier's job and DJ Lagway potentially starting or becoming their future. But for A&M for this season, I think we'll all give Coach Elko a lot of grace regardless of what happens. But to make something of this season with what's still ahead, how important is this particular one?
Matt, I think it's huge. I think if you look at the past of what A&M's done in away games, we've struggled in away games. I mean, that was one of the things that was brought up in the press conference this week to Coach Elko, that the last time that we won an away game was whenever he was here. Or I think that's right. Yeah. So I think that
over 1,060 days.
Yeah, for 1,060 days. That's tough. And being a part of that, it was, frustrating. Felt like we were in games a lot and we're there down to the end, but we just couldn't get over that last little hump to win those away games. But I think that for that, and then also just Elko proving that, hey, this is a new era of A&M football. We're able to go into hostile environments against good teams and come out with victories. So I think that there's moving forward for the rest of this season, for us to make something of it, this is a big game for the confidence of our team, the confidence of our fan base, and for people to feel like hey, A&M's really a contender this year, not just a transition year for them. So I think that it's a big game, and everyone on that team knows that. And I think that they're going to come out ready to play.
So let me ask you this. Was it a topic of conversation in the locker room? And at what point did you guys were aware, like, dude, we haven't won on the road in forever? Like, obviously there was the neutral site wins against Arkansas, which we got used to seeing very often. But, like, at what point you're like, dude, can we figure this out?
It definitely becomes, something that's kind of chattered about a little bit. You don't want to talk about it too much because then it's like maybe getting in your head a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it definitely becomes something that you're aware of. I mean, whenever, 3.5 years you go without not being able to win a road game, it definitely is something that's brought up. But I mean, the most frustrating thing that we would talk about was we would be possibly up or ahead at halftime or going into the third or even midway through the third. We just found ways to give games back to teams. And I think that that's where, I would really like to see this weekend, us put together a whole performance in an away stadium against an SEC team, and to shut a team out in the fourth quarter and to keep a team from being able to come back and beat us. I think that's going to be the difference, is if we can do that. Good 3 quarters of play doesn't win you a game. You got to play a full 4 quarters, especially in a big environment like the Swamp. So it really stunk being a part of, all those away losses. But this is a new team, and I expect things to be different.
So I'm asking you these questions because you were just there, right? So I'm just curious, like, was it a topic of discussion between the guys? Yeah. Like, dude, we travel on third. I don't know why I keep saying dude. I apologize. I'm going to be more professional. Friends, salutations.
No, you're good.
Like, hey, guys, why are we leaving on Thursday? Was that a topic? Like, or because you were here from the beginning of Jimbo, so, like, that's all you kind of knew, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, for away games leaving on Thursday, some guys really liked it. And to be honest, I was kind of a fan of it in some circumstances, and some it did feel like it was a little extra, I don't know. It's different guys have different opinions. Some guys were really against traveling on Thursdays, and some guys were totally happy with it. It was a different approach to the travel stuff. Most teams do travel on Fridays, and that's kind of the, standard across football. And so, I mean, if it was a game where we were traveling a long distance and playing on a different coast, then yeah, maybe an extra day would be nice to maybe get adjusted, be acclimated to the time change, even though there's not much of one. But to be able to just to get situated, get your feet, where they are, it is nice in some ways. But in others, it definitely can be, sitting around a hotel for a while can be frustrating, and can just feel like you're just sitting there forever. So some guys have different opinions. So just depending on who you ask, to be honest.
Here's my opinion on it. If it works, cool. Like, let's do it. But if you're on the middle of a 8-game losing streak on the road, I think we're going to try something different, guys. If you're having egg whites every morning and you're losing, well, you know what? You stop having egg whites. You go to oatmeal, whatever, right? I sometimes in a game, Max, when I'm watching a game, I will switch my seat to change what's happening on the field, and I know that has nothing to do with it. And I don't know if traveling early had anything to do with it, but I just I got to figure something out, something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny you say that. Watching the game against Notre Dame, I found myself doing the same thing. I was bouncing around from seat to seat trying to make things happen. But I mean, yeah, changing things up is sometimes helpful for having different things happen on the field, from a program standpoint. But to be honest, I don't really know what that would have done for production and for consistency on the field. I never had any other experience other than traveling on Thursday, so I can't speak to it. But maybe this year we'll get to see some different, performances in away games, and maybe the Thursday to Friday thing is a bigger deal than I thought.
All right, let's close out with this. What's the key to this weekend? What do you think has to happen for A&M to end that road losing streak?
I think that Florida is a classic SEC team. They're big, they're long. They have some big guys in the middle on their defense. But for us, it's going to be stopping the run game. Montreal Johnson for Florida. He's an experienced running back. He's been playing college football for a while. If you can go in there and you can stop the run, and you can take that out of their game and make them more one-dimensional, I think that's going to be a huge part of being able to win this football game. That's been something that we've struggled with the first 2 weeks, is the run game. Teams rushing for over 140 yards against us is not good, especially whenever you're going into SEC play against teams that have good offensive lines. Florida brings back 3 offensive linemen, 3 offensive starters or offensive line starters. So if we can defensively make them one-dimensional, make them to where they can't run the ball against us, I think that's going to be a huge part of being able to win this game. And then also on the offensive side of the ball, the same thing. If we can run the ball effectively and make ourselves two-dimensional, that I think is going to be the changing point of this game is who can win the game up front and who can win the rushing game.
Max, great job, buddy. Talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Giggle. Max right there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Does a great job with his momentum shifts. If you haven't read it, check it out. He's doing wonderful work there. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back with an open segment. I know we got some text messages to get to, maybe some college basketball talk as well. Right now, we're talking about Heritage Films. They make documentary films about everything, right? But they do it for normal people like you listening right now, you watching right now. They'll do it for you, right? A documentary about you, your dad, your grandfather, your grandmother, your mom, whoever, right? So that's one aspect of what Chance and Heritage Films do. They could do it for your family business. Make your business the main character in the story. Talk about how TexAgs became a thing and how it all kind of originated with Billy doing the Maroon and White report, and then Brandon and Josh creating this TexAgs concept and joining forces with Hunter and Billy, and just that's like a story for TexAgs, where you can do it for your family business, your family ranch, your family get-togethers, Thanksgiving, Aggie football games, tailgating. He can be an eye in the sky and tell that story in a Netflix-style documentary for normal people. You do not have to be a very famous celebrity to have a documentary done about your family. You could just be a normal Joe like all of us here. That's why we did it with my father. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. The Torniac, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. That's where we find Caitlin Torn. Miss Torn, we got some basketball times?
We do. We have some times released for the Players Era Power MTE Vegas
Nobody knows
tournament.
what MTE stands for.
It is multiple team events.
Oh, MTE, of course.
So we've got on November 26th, Oregon versus Texas A&M at 3:30 p.m.
Okay.
On the 27th, A&M versus Creighton at 5:30 p.m.
Okay.
And November 30th, San Diego State versus Texas A&M at 6 p.m.
Okay. What is interesting about that game?
About the San Diego State game?
Mm-hmm. What date is that?
November 30th.
What time is that?
6 p.m. Is that Thanksgiving?
It's after Thanksgiving. It's the day of the A&M-Texas football game.
You're right. Right.
The only reason I know that is because Richard Zane told me on the way in here, he's like, dude, you see what time that game is?
That's tough.
No, we don't know the time of the A&M-Texas game just yet. Safe bet it's an evening game, I'm assuming?
I would assume so, yes.
So thanks, MTE.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, hopefully we'll have 2 good Aggie sports days that day.
Hopefully so. Can you give me a text message, please, before we hit a break?
Yes, we got a text from Trevor in College Station. I think that this will be a good question for you,
Trevor,
David.
what up?
He says, what is your drink the maroon Kool-Aid and filled with hopium record prediction for the rest of the season based on what's transpired up to this point? And what do you actually think the record will be, setting aside the maroon bias?
I don't really have an answer for you. I don't know.
I know you like to be positive.
I mean, I don't know. 8-4 is, I guess, what I think right now. Win this weekend, and I'm back all in on 9-3. I don't know. Like, I think this is going to be an ascending team, right? And hopefully it starts this weekend. All right, we'll hit a break here. I don't know. That's not a good answer, guys. I apologize. I'll think about it more. It's TexAgs Live. Welcome back in. Oh, it's a good song. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. You don't have your...
Can't hear it.
So why don't you put a headphone in, bro?
I did when I hosted.
Yeah?
And they made you do it around the back. My back, I'm not saying anything about you.
Your
You don't
neck,
have a big muscular
your back. Sorry?
Whoa. Finish that on air.
I don't know the next word.
Oh, yeah, you don't.
My neck, my back, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta.
Strike that from the tape. My back is a little more broad than yours.
So you say you have a stronger back?
No, I didn't say strong.
It is
probably stronger.
It's stronger.
I'm fatter. But here's the thing. It's harder for me to get it around the back and go because, the aesthetic of, I believe the upstairs management didn't want the mic line to be visible.
Right.
So I had to go around. And that's the only time that I wore the headphones. And it made me, I was telling Nick when I was hosting that, it was making me so mad because it was like constantly pulling. I need more slack in my earphone line.
Okay.
But that's why I don't wear them in here now. And plus,
would you like for me to order you an IFB so you
that
can...
would look cool.
Yeah.
I'd walk around with it like maybe at my house and impress my wife. She think I'm important.
Hold on. Nick's got something for me. Sorry.
No, he doesn't. He's not even hosting. It's Cade. I can see Cade.
I was saying that you could do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm always, but there was a time when I had my own intro song. And it was consistent every week, and we've gotten away from that.
What song is it again?
It was different. It would change every signing day. I would change it. So
Okay.
About 4 or 5 years. We could go back to it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's something.
Carson's working. He's got your back. He loves recruiting.
Okay. I want to open the next segment with Top's Drop by Fat Pat.
Okay. All right. John Sheshik's favorite song.
Is it really?
Yeah, he uses that as his intro music on this show.
Oh, well, I love Shesh.
Yeah,
so it makes
Shesh
a lot
is
of
awesome.
sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
By the way, it's
Good segue for the next segment.
So the next segment, Michael Earley will be here
for the first time
in studio. Is it the first time? On TexAgs Live, I guess.
On TexAgs Live in the new studio, and then
Yeah.
I think it's his first time on radio as the head coach. We did the interview with him right after he got the job, but that wasn't on like radio or anything. It was just something for the site.
For TexAgs. By the way, it's Recruiting Country, brought to you by Caprock Health System, a faster patient-centered revolution in care. 2 ERs in the Bryan College Station area, the 24-hour ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch, the full-service hospital with ER in Bryan on Briarcrest, online at caprockhealthsystem.com.
I don't like new chairs stink.
There's a lot of complaining going on.
They can't go up and down, and they don't roll. And I'm like a big-bellied guy, so I need like some separation from the desk. I know Nick loves the new chairs because I can't
slide
move, and I can't go up and down. So he fixes his cameras, and then they're set there. But I need a little. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Okay, it won't drop the chair.
Hey, we got some recruiting to get into, but I want to ask you one thing. You asked me a question about a potential celebrity match that's never going to happen.
Celebrity.
Yeah,
that's an interesting
celebrity
term to
match.
use.
That's
Okay.
what they used in the tweet. Okay.
Okay.
I guess he's a celebrity for being an author. I'm not. Okay. But bottom line is, if you could set up a celebrity match for yourself, who would you celebrity box or cage fight?
Who would I want to fight, or who would I sell the most tickets against?
Both. Give me both.
I think I would sell a lot of tickets. Well, you go in the baseball world, I'm sure there's somebody that would, draw a lot of tickets. But I think I'd sell a lot of tickets if I fought Billy.
Okay, that would sell some tickets.
Yeah. Who would I like to fight? Richard.
If you gave Richard a tag team partner.
No, I don't need a tag team partner.
No, he gets it. You don't get one.
Here's the reason why. Because I wouldn't have to put out much effort, and my cardio is not where it needs to be for any kind of boxing match. I would actually be, as crazy as this is, I know Billy loves to say how much he walks every week, but I feel like I'd have a small cardio advantage in a boxing match against Billy.
You think? He walks every day.
Yeah, but it's like, when does he actually get his heart rate up?
Okay. When do you get your heart rate up?
And when I lift.
Okay.
Because I'm on time breaks. I'm not sitting there looking at my phone.
By the way, your friend Michael, Dr. Mike Israel, by the way, he is a doctor, says you should rest for 3 minutes. Let's talk some football, shall we?
Okay, we must have watched different videos, but let's talk football.
Yeah, 3 minutes to get the full press when you get back to it. But that's okay. Let's continue on. Rashad Johnson Jr. commits over the weekend. What are the Aggies getting with him?
Yeah. So first of all, I guess it's one of the few times, and I was actually talking to Jason about this yesterday. Can't remember the last time we were caught completely off guard where we had nothing made, and in terms of a pre-written shell or graphics or anything like that, and that just doesn't happen often. It's once every blue moon, and it does kind of It's not fun, but it does remind you like how important all the prep work is, and as thorough as you can be to have all your bases covered. But I think it surprised a lot of people in the Bright football complex, to be honest with you. Like there was some thought. He came into town for the Notre Dame game, and I think quietly A&M had done a much better job than everybody around the country thought they were doing with him. And I think the general consensus was that he was going to actually just decommit from Georgia instead of immediately flipping. Like there would be a decommitment. He may go on a few more trips, come back to A&M, but ultimately A&M was in the lead. Well, that happened, but he just immediately flipped. He decommitted from Georgia and made an immediate flip. So I think that caught a lot of people off guard, not just us, but I think even some people across the street in the football building were caught off guard by it. That being said, I think what A&M's getting is a need player at a need position in this class. I actually wrote an article last week or the week before about just names to watch at safety across the state of Texas because they don't have anybody committed at that position in the class currently. And it was a position where you start kind of looking at the depth chart in the future, and you're going to need some guys, and you always need quality high school players. So once Jonah Williams picked Texas, a lot of folks were going, okay, what's A&M going to do at safety? And Rashad Johnson Jr. was not a name that was even – we were even talking about as a possibility because he's been committed to Georgia, and even though he did come in on the visit, we just hadn't heard much about him. And so for us, after he flipped, it was immediately okay. Like let's do a deeper dive and start digging into the tape and all that kind of stuff. And when you look at it, when you look at his huddle, it's pretty clear why Georgia was keen on taking him. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's downhill, it's aggressive, it's 6'2", 200 pounds, got a great frame on him. Physical, sideline to sideline, shows a lot of really good attributes. And my favorite thing is like his willingness to come down and strike the ball carrier. That's what I saw when I would go scout Dalton Brooks. And it was like, man, this kid, when he just arrives at the football, it goes down right then. Like it's immediate. There's not like a big tussle when he makes contact. It's like he impacts the ball carrier and the play's dead right there. That's what you see a lot with Rashad Johnson Jr. We don't know enough about him yet to give a full analysis because it is new and he's from South Sumter High School in Bushnell, Florida. I can't remember any A&M player, whether they've gotten him or not, or any player that A&M's ever recruited from that high school. Yep. So, there's some digging still for me and Jason to do. I know Jason was looking at his tape yesterday some more, and obviously it's a kid we're going to keep tracking. But obviously for Mike Elko and Ish Aristide, a player that was a necessity, like to push on them, even though he committed to Georgia, I believe, in July. Right. They never wavered in terms of their pursuit on him. And even, again, it was like more behind the scenes. And that's kind of how Mike Elko has done stuff. You think about the DJ Sanders commitment where everything publicly was Texas. Everything publicly was Texas. There's a lot of confidence on the Texas side. And A&M just kind of quietly behind the scenes had gotten some real confidence and ultimately landed him. But for Rashad Johnson, I think it was even more under the radar. Like A&M wasn't even mentioned as a school that was a possibility if he were to leave Georgia. So it was kind of sudden for everybody, but I don't think anybody in the Bright football complex is complaining about it, and we certainly aren't either. Like it's, again, you don't want to make it a habit of being surprised by commitments, but it's cool when it does every now and then. It's like, hey, like that was a cool aspect of this recruiting cycle, something out of blue we didn't see coming. Well, and it reminds you of the fluidity of recruiting.
Well, and also I want to add, this is not just a guy flipping. This is a guy flipping from Georgia.
Yeah, and he had a good offer list prior to committing to Georgia, and A&M was amongst his finalists. And look, they're at 21 commitments right now. We can talk a little bit about class and number, but just like it was an out-of-the-blue commitment for A&M, inevitably, somebody that's committed now is not going to sign with the Aggies. Sure. It happens that way every recruiting cycle. And, that is where the portal can help mitigate losses in your high school class. It can help mitigate missed evals. It can help mitigate knuckleheads off the field when they get in trouble, or guys that just leave, whatever. That's what the portal is for, is to fill the gaps in your roster. And that's why if somebody decommits, or if Jonah Williams picks Texas, it's not time to just completely lose it and freak out about the recruiting class or the state of A&M recruiting. They're doing a good job. They're still in the top 10. I don't think they're going to go anywhere in terms of their top targets. But, I mean, you start looking around what's happening in college football, and what happens if there's a player somewhere at any position that's disgruntled after 1 year on campus and they're like, okay, like A&M was one of my finalists. I'm ready to just go back home to the state or whatever it may be and continue my career at A&M. Well, you didn't get that kid out of high school, and people probably lost their mind about not getting him out of high school, but you get him 1 year in. How much of a difference does that make? So there's just so much that can happen, both coming and going between now and the finalization of next year's football roster, that it's way too soon for anybody to get overly excited about recruiting or overly negative about recruiting. But they're doing a good job right now.
How did the weekend, I mean, again, not a great opponent, but I'm just curious, does any of that kind of hush people when you take on a team against McNeese? Not that there was a lot of chatter anyway.
No, and I think, just like early in the Jimbo era, any new coaching staff, you're going to get a little bit of a leash. And it's kind of what I wrote a week before about, you lose to Notre Dame and, it does sting, but because of the nature of recruiting, like A&M's going to get some leash here. Like in the end, it comes down to the steak, but right now you can still sell the sizzle. That was an analogy that I brought up often with Jimbo. Toward the end, the sizzle had worn off. You had to sell the steak, which meant you had to start winning games. We said that all throughout the season last year. If A&M doesn't win games, they're not going to hold on to some of these guys in the recruiting class. Weston Davis, Ty Anthony Smith, Draylon Miller, Don McKinley, Gabe Relaford, they all end up elsewhere. They were all committed to A&M at one point because they lost games. In the end, it is going to come down to winning and losing. Like that is still going to be a factor. The best programs that win the most are going to get the best players. But for right now, Coach Elko and company have a little bit of a leash on that front. I'm
curious, and you kind of touched on it a moment ago, but those names you mentioned, maybe not specifically them, but if they are unhappy, how that phone could ring, Well, sure. Look, it's what college football is now. And I hate to say this, it's not college football, it's college athletics, but a lot of these kids, especially they go in the portal, they're like 1 year rentals. Like everybody's a 1 year rental because you don't know. I mean, you could have a great season and you have a kid that plays some, but he doesn't feel like he's playing enough, and so he's disgruntled, and so he wants to leave. And, what does that do for other kids that are committed at the position? What does that do for kids at the high school where he came from that you may be recruiting down the road? You just don't know. Like, everything is so fluid and so independent of each other that it's hard to put recruiting into one basket. Like, everything's so different with every kid. So I think if you ever want to speak in terms of definitives in recruiting, it's a little short-sighted, and I think it doesn't paint a clear picture because it's impossible to do and say recruiting is this. Right. But recruiting is fluid. That's what it is. I mean, that's the only thing you can say about it is it's consistently fluid. And within that, there are some trends and some things that you think, but overall, like I could say Christian Nuño, NIL is important to Christian Nuño, and so because it's important to Christian Nuño, it's going to be important to Cruz Nuño, who goes to school with him. Right. But for Cruz Nuño, it's really more about he wants to stay close to mom and dad. So every situation, and so in the NIL stuff, there are kids that obviously make decisions based on that, but there are kids that I know that have signed with A&M and other places for lesser NIL money than other schools were promising them, and because they valued other things. And so it's not just NIL is the king all the time. You have to be competitive in the space, but if Caitlin Torn she really wants to stay close to home, and Texas A&M is offering her, a competitive NIL price compared to USC or Oregon or Florida, whatever, then there's essentially a price tag on the proximity to home. There could be a price tag for somebody for education or their major or post-grad opportunities. Like every family, every kid's going to value different things. So those things have a price in NIL, right? I'm willing to go to Texas A&M because I really enjoy the game day atmosphere so much that I'll take less money to go there. Or I really believe in my development from these coaches, so I'm willing to take less money to go to X school over Y school who's promised me more. Do you ever catch yourself doing the what if game? God, what if Cam Coleman and Draylon Miller decided to come? Or once they move on, you kind of close? Well,
I guess it depends on the relationship I have with the kid and the family. I've known Draylon Miller forever, so I obviously follow what Draylon's doing. Cam Coleman, I got to shake his hand one time, so it kind of depends on that. But It's easy to play the what if game in every sport, right?
Yeah.
And it's what I often say during baseball season when people are critical of decisions made by a coaching staff, or they watch something happen in the game and it's a negative for A&M, and they respond, well, why did we do that? Because it's really easy to make decisions, in hindsight. It takes some real gumption and some wisdom to make decisions in foresight. And just because a kid works out somewhere else doesn't mean that he was going to work out at Texas A&M.
Right.
Just because a kid doesn't work out here means he's going to work out somewhere else. We've seen it happen too many times. But, the what-if game is easy to play in life.
Yeah, and everything.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach Earley's already here, so we should probably hit a break. But let me ask you one last thing. You covered a couple games this weekend. It's the Willis game and the Atascocita game. Is that right?
Yeah, and I saw two of the best performances in the state of Texas. Jermaine Bishop from Willis, 2026. He's our number one player in the state.
Target.
Man, he is really good. He's a little slight, but he is so stinking good.
Yep.
He's a legit two-way player, like two-way prospect. He could come to school and play nickelback corner. He could come to school and play receiver. Like, he's got enough skill on both sides of the ball that he could do like a Terry Bussey type. Like, he's a legit two-way prospect. And then Carde Mack, who's playing quarterback for Atascocita, but he's getting recruited as a running back. I think he ran for 109 yards, threw for 254, scored 4 touchdowns. And Atascocita wins a battle of Houston area giants over Katy, 27-7 in the second half for Atascocita. They win by 17 points. I don't know when the last time Katy got beat at home by more than a touchdown.
Right.
Pretty incredible win for Coach Stump.
All right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. We'll come back with Coach Earley here in studio for the first time on TexAgs Live, and I think on TexAgs Radio as well. Right now, we're talking Rollo Insurance. The difference is real. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. This studio right here is brought to you by Rollo Insurance. They have been the official insurance provider of TexAgs Live and TexAgs Radio since the very beginnings of this show. They have all the offices in Texas you can imagine, 60 great offices in Texas, but their headquarters is right here on Highway 6 in College Station. But if you live in other parts, they got an office in Houston, they've got Dallas, they've got Tyler, they've got Austin, San Antonio, west of the Panhandle, they've got outside of Texas as well. They'll take care of your car insurance, your homeowner's insurance, your business insurance, you name it. God, family, and country, that is what they are about. It is Rollo Insurance. 888-44-ROLLO or go to rolloinsurance.com. That's 888-44-ROLLO, rolloinsurance.com. It's on. Fat Pat, Tops Drop.
Good. I'm glad
they're playing it on. Do you know this song?
I can't hear it.
Ray, you probably know it though.
If we play it,
What?
we'll
Played it. Tops Drop by Fat Pat.
I'm bad at song
Are you?
names.
You might be in charge of picking the music going forward.
I'm bad at actors' names, song names, but I know them.
You know them, okay.
Yeah.
It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We've got Brauninger in studio, Michael Earley in studio. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
First day of fall ball. Just, I guess before we get into that, and I know Brauninger's got some specifics for you, how have these last few months been? Like, I remember the first 2 weeks were crazy. How has it kind of settled in?
Yeah, it's just forever, ever changing.
Yeah.
Something new every day, but got a lot of good people around me. So it's been a really good transition just as far as my coaching staff all the way to administrative, people across the street. Everyone's been super supportive, so it's made my life a lot easier.
Yeah.
How much, we were just kind of talking in a break, but how much of a transition was it from you being the assistant where you hear about stuff happening with the team, academics, whatever, to now being the guy that has to answer the phone and answer all that stuff?
Yeah, it's definitely different, right? You were a suggester over, decision maker, and sometimes you made decisions that became the final decision, but you didn't have to deliver them. And just, a new part of my life is worrying about pitchers, which is something I always cared about them, but I never worried about. Like every time they throw, I worry about them, just health and being, keeping them right. But yeah, it's definitely different, but in a lot of ways, I was doing it, just was not the final message.
Yeah, and then what has it been like? How is Michael Earley, the head coach, trying to instill a culture, accountability to his group that, every coach that does that, I feel like, has a different personality with how they want to get that across. How have you gotten it across to your guys so far?
I think I'm super lucky in year one to have a ton of returners that know how we do things, because our culture and our structure were really, really good. So I'm doing what I've normally done. There are some differences, right? Especially with new guys who don't know me. Developing that relationship in the right way, because it is different now. But again, just super lucky to have the returners I have, and it's kind of been a seamless transition, and I can just kind of fill in where I need to fill in.
How much does it help having Will Fox and Hutch, and then Jace Hutchins and Jack Mahala? How have you seen them help integrate Caleb Longley and Coach Jason
It's
Kelly?
huge. It's the same thing as the returning players.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to insulate myself with people that could, make me better, make the program better, and make life. It ain't easy, but as easy as possible. And just knowing where your blind spots are, or things you need to get better at and get stronger at, and just being super self-aware. And those guys, to their credit, are self-aware, and then they help the other guys. So it's been really good.
All right, we'll get to the current team in just a second. David, I wanted to ask you this. You've been kind of on a little bit of a heater on the recruiting trail. What has the reception been like obviously the transfer portal classes you brought in has been written about a bunch, both by us and national media outlets, but what has the reception been like on the high school circuit? Because I know you can't mention specific names,
right?
But you guys have been kind of dusting up on the high school circuit.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb has done a really good job, and all of us have been helping him. And 25 class, like, we just got a really big one. Not sure if I can say the name or not.
I don't think you can.
I won't.
Yeah.
But I think people know. I think people know who it is. So yeah, it's going good. It's going good. 26 class is going good. We've had guys in the last couple weekends, and every home football weekend we're rolling. So reception's been good. It's recruiting is hot or cold sometimes, and right now we're doing well. But we got to get into this 26 class, the guys who are juniors, and continue to do well.
And he's an Indiana guy. Grew up liking Notre Dame football, but you told me you were really pulling for Coach Elko. That opener, because you know how much it probably meant to get that first one under his belt.
Yeah, I wanted that for him, for the university, but him so bad. Just meeting the guy. If you've never met him, he is just an unbelievable human being, and I've only met him just a couple times. And some people get these perception of big time football coaches, but when you talk, you know him better than me. He's just like a normal dude. Seems to really, really care about his players.
Mike, has your voice changed, and I don't mean tone, but like with your new position and the way you talk to players, because it's a kind of a different authoritarian voice. That being said, you are who you are.
Right. No, I always held back. I always held back because I always believed in playing my role and the role I was supposed to play. So for me, my voice has changed. It is louder, and that is just like a freedom for me because and it's not about being negative or positive, because when you're just doing hitting, and Bronny knows, like, hitting is can be sensitive, and you got to be super positive. But when you're always positive and you're on them, when you get on them, it means more, right? And for me, I was always kind of holding back on stuff on defense because it just wasn't my job. And so that's been really easy. It's actually been kind of let it out a little bit. And
Are the players responding to it?
Oh, yeah, because they know how I am. Because those moments happen, they just happen in private.
Yeah.
Or they happen every now and then. And it's not, look, I'm not screaming and yelling and berating guys, but it's just, it feels good, honestly, just to be able to be that main voice because you always want it, but I always really believe in, I want to say staying in your lane, but playing the role you're supposed to play for the team. And I think that's what our assistants right now are doing a really good job of, too.
We're getting a ton of questions about the newcomers into the program, specifically out of the transfer portal, but I want to start your conversation about like the big names. And me and you have had a lot of conversations about Caden Sorrell. And toward the end of the year, there were times when y'all went out to the ballpark, the regional game against Texas, you know, he hits the homer on Omaha, where you're going, this kid might end up being the best player on the field. Mm-hmm. And that's saying something considering the quality around him. What have you seen out of Sorrell that's gotten you so excited about his future this fall?
It's just his, I mean, if you just look at his body, he grew throughout the year, right? Like he never stopped developing. And then now him with Coach Mack, he's even bigger, stronger, athletic. He does things at practice sometimes, and you're like, oh man, is this guy could be really good, right? I mean, coming out of high school, like he was the highest high school draft prospect we had on the team, and you see it. He's a potential first rounder. He's a stud. You know, he still has a lot of work to do, but I think the thing about him, he's an outfielder, right? But he's a complete player. Some outfielders just hide on the corner, and him last year just made some unbelievable plays. You know, had the knack to get the big hit that happened to be usually a home run, and yeah, he's incredible. Like he has a lot of tools. He's a pro, potential first round guy, and he's just kind of continue to get better. And
then how do you, like, you know, everybody's expecting, it's hard for a guy like Jace. The next level for Jace, what is it? What does it look like?
I think Jace, it's just trying to take the pressure off, right? Like he wants to win, clearly wants to win, and then you got a guy who's projected by a lot of people to be the first pick or a top 3 pick. And, I've had experience with dealing with a couple of those guys and how you handle it. And I think the way you handle it is you go on your day-to-day, but you also don't run from it. People talk about it, you talk about it. You don't hide from it. You don't not make it a thing. You just let it be what it's going to be. And I think for him, it's, again, if you look at his numbers from year 1 to year 2, the swing and miss went down and the chase went down. It's just about doing that again and taking that step because, like we said before, the more balls he hits them harder than everyone else. Simple math equation. It really works out. And for Jace, it's going to have to be patient, right? Like, guys are going to walk him at times. Mm-hmm. You know him well too. Like he wants to hit, but those walks to him personally and to the team are worth the time.
Well, and one more guy I want to ask you about. Can you give us a health update on Gavin Grahovic? Had a minor wrist surgery. Probably won't see him much, if at all, in the fall. But I think the biggest thing there is he's missing more on the defense than the offense.
Right, yeah. No, Gavin had a minor wrist surgery a couple weeks ago, so he's got about 4 weeks to go until we'll start doing stuff. Probably take it really, really slow with him. So he'll be, I'm trying to think in my head. I don't anticipate playing him in any fall game, even if it would be too last minute for me. His health is way too important for himself and the team. So yeah, he's out, but he's around the guys. He's turning in, taking over a bit of a leadership role. And you're like, man, like we looked really good today hitting. And then you look around and you're like, Schott and Grahovic didn't even hit. So
well, and Schott right now is like living the life. He's like minister of vibes at baseball practice.
He is. He hides it a little bit though. He wants to be out there. And talk about just one of the most underrated players I've ever coached. I think he led the team in hitting last year, and I can't imagine a lineup without that guy in it because he's the real deal.
Here's a Captain Obvious question for you. How difficult will it be to have guys step up the way Chris Cortez and Evan Aschenbeck did? And you got some new guys that have the chance, but that's obviously going to be a big question this year.
Yeah, we have a ton of depth, I feel like, on the mound. It's about who takes over that role. Or it's not even necessarily about doing what they did or doing the same type of role, but however we carve it out as a team, however it plays out, like whatever role you have and owning it, because that's what those guys did. Right. They took their role and they owned it, and those roles can be different to get you through 9 innings. Maybe it's 2 people. Maybe you don't replace Aschenbeck and Cortez with 2 guys, but you might hopefully replace them with 3 or 4 guys. And how do you take your role and how do you run with it? So I like the depth. Our top end lefties are really, really good, and I like the overall depth of our right-handers. So it's going to be about health, throwing strikes, and playing good defense.
I was able to catch up with Coach Fox about a week ago, and I was asking about Caden Kent and his progression, and obviously the way he played over the final month of the season. Coach Fox was like, man, it's kind of crazy what he's always been this player, but that one swing, the homer against Oregon in the Super, it's crazy how sometimes that can change the complete trajectory of a kid. What have you seen from Caden that he's come back after a really solid summer at the Cape with this newfound confidence in a leadership role in the infield?
He came in with a new haircut, a little more tan, feeling himself a little bit. Now, I think the part about him is he hasn't changed too much. He always played and prepared every day like he was a starting shortstop, which is not coach speak. Like, I saw it every day. He actually did it, and that's why it was so comfortable for us to, not jump in the transfer portal and go grab a shortstop, because I knew Caden was the guy. But he was always who he was. But, yeah, I feel a little more confidence in him. And, you can see a little more confidence in himself. But he's always kind of been the same. And that's – you always talk about that next guy up or being ready. And he's the most unbelievable guy I've ever seen at, continuing to prepare when he did not play. So when he hit that home run or played the way he did, it was not by accident. And him doing that is really, really hard. It might seem easy. It is not easy. It's not like football. You might not be the starting wide receiver, but you're getting in the game. You might not be the starting safety, but you're getting in the game. If you're not starting in the middle infield, you're probably not getting in the game. For him to prepare and continue to prepare the way he did, it's just an example I'll probably use for the rest of my coaching career. And guess what he's doing right now? Because if we played today, he'd be the starting shortstop, and he's preparing the same exact way. So he's very, very unique in that aspect.
Do we have more time with him?
Sure. I mean, you got to
stick around. Yeah.
Do you have micro goals? I know you have a macro goal, right? Obviously, you want to get to Omaha, you want to win the whole thing. But for right now, for fall ball, do you have a micro goal?
It's just continuing to develop guys like we always have, and keeping guys healthy, and getting the freshmen acclimated, and being patient with them. You want to be impatient for action, but patient for results, right? You see stuff that needs to get fixed, but understand these guys are young, and you try to think back. Even Caden Sorrell as a freshman last year, his fall was, I think we ended that fall game at Houston. I think he struck out 4 times, and he was super down. And having enough experience to see guys before and having some patience with them, but at the same time, pushing them and understand there are expectations. This is not high school anymore.
Yeah, and then the pitching staff side of it, how much have you been able to see JK? Obviously, you have a great relationship with him, but just my short interactions with Prager and Lampkin, they've been super high on this guy. But what have you been able to see from your head coaching role about JK and how he's interacting with his guys so far?
I think the thing about JK, and I feel like we're similar from a hitting to pitching standpoint, there's not one way to do it. I always like to say we're not coaches, we're problem solvers. I don't coach hitting, I solve problems within hitting. Same with him, and I think he can coach every single guy in a different way. It's not one way to do it. He's really, really good at those fine, mechanical things that you might not notice that get a guy in the strike zone more. He's also can speak the TrackMan language along with the guys we've kept and hired to do that with him. So he's very, multi-dimensional. He can do a lot of different things, but at the same time, really good with the relationship piece. And the guys really, really respect him. I've never met a player that doesn't, by the end of the year, middle of the year, respect that guy at the highest level.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you, but any updates? People were asking on the chat about the stadium renovations.
Really? Yeah.
Are you surprised by that?
Yeah. Like I said in my interview, I met with them 2 weeks ago, and everything I've been told since I got the job and when I meet is we are pushing forward and we're going to get this thing going. So it looks great. The plans look great. Wish I could show you, but I'm not allowed. But yeah, everything's rolling forward, and it seems like there's more motivation than there's ever been, which is awesome for the program.
But for you, you're focused on the baseball team. That's great eventually, but right now,
yeah,
it's about now.
It is important. It is important from a, how many Aggies can you fit in a stadium, right? This place the fan base has shown that they will fill up a stadium, and at the same time, I would love for the player development facilities to match the atmosphere, because right now I think it's the best atmosphere in college baseball. You have the player development facilities, and the people you're putting in them to coach the guys match the atmosphere. I think you got something super special. So it's, Trev's been awesome. Everyone's been awesome over there, and we're pushing forward, and everything looks great.
We've talked a lot about, David, just our baseball content and the interaction that it gets even in the offseason. Have you felt that since you got the job? Like, this fan base has been super ate up with what's going on at Bluebell, and obviously football's taking the lead role right now, but have you felt that around town? Like, hey, like, people are pretty fired up about what I got going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, and rightfully so. I mean, we got a lot of really good players, coming off of a year where, an amazing year. The further I get away from that last game, the more you can look back and be rational and appreciate the year you had. So, and with a lot of guys coming back and the guys we've added, like, yeah, there should be some excitement, but we got a long way to go. A really, really long way to go. There's some stuff you can see we already got to clean up, some stuff we got to get better at, some stuff we got to get back to doing, and it's super early on. But yeah, I mean, I think the excitement's warranted, but, we got to be patient here. There's a really, really long way to go.
Coach Earley, we appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yep. Looking forward to the season and fall ball. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with Professor John Harris joining us right now. A moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. They have a great selection of commercial vehicles with service body trucks, flatbed trucks, several medium-duty trucks for those heavier jobs. And they have all the services and the needs that you want from a car dealership, right? Great trade-in value, great customer service, great pricing, and just a great experience when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Locally owned and Aggie operated. They have complimentary pickup and delivery for their service customers and free oil changes for life on the life of your purchase as long as you own that vehicle from Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It's not a far drive. We're talking 15 minutes, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. A short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. And we're back on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline, the Boss Firearms hotline, and we talked to John Harris of FootballTakeover.com and, of course, Texans sideline reporter. Johnny, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, David. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Sorry I'm a little late here on the program. We had Coach Earley in studio, so thanks for being flexible. Let's talk a little bit about Florida. What have you seen on the film from Florida? Obviously, Miami didn't look good. Samford looked great, but that was kind of expected. When you see this Florida team, what do you see?
I see a team with not a lot of NFL talent. I mean, that's kind of the first thing that always kind of stands out. Like, I don't know that I see a ton of NFL talent, and that worries me for Florida. I don't know what the Graham Mertz situation will be this weekend, but I don't know that going back to him does any good if you're Billy Napier. If you're Billy Napier and you're concerned at all about your job status, you probably got to go with DJ Legway, because you got to be able to say to the people that paid whatever Legway's salary was, you got to be able to say, yeah, well, look, the work that I did or that we did with DJ, and maybe that sways them. I don't know, but I can tell you this: following a number of Florida people, the way that I do, from my years there, I don't think I've ever seen that fan base more disgusted after that Miami game. I mean, Samford, whatever. But I think that, to me, is going to end up being when Legway goes on the field, he really, that's when the antennae of A&M should go up. Graham Mertz, if he plays, I just don't think it does anything for them. Now, Wilson's a tremendous talent, a kind of weapon X wide receiver, kind of use him a number of different ways. Montreal Johnson can get going. So they got a couple of players at the skill positions, perimeter positions that I think can do some good things. But defensively, there's nothing defensively where I go, ooh, okay. I just don't see that. I just see, if anything, day 3 NFL talent. And I think that's first and foremost that pops off the tape when you watch Florida.
All right, so what do you think when Florida pops the tape on with A&M? And I know the defense has a lot of talent, and we hope the offense turns into something. What do you think they see in the A&M offense?
I think Florida sees a group that defensively it'll feel like it can get right, because I think the secondary for Florida will look at A&M's receivers and go, yeah, we can lock them up. We're good. And I don't think they'll feel pressured by A&M's skill talent, which, I think A&M will be able to run the football against them. I just worry, even last week against McNeese, I still worried about receivers getting themselves open on their own. Like, one of the things that stood out to me, David, and this is, I don't know, this is just maybe a small thing to me, but it doesn't look like the receivers are running their routes hard. It looks like they're like jogging through their routes at times. It's kind of bizarre. Like, I'm like, why is that guy jogging across the field? Like, he's a clear out route. You got to go to, open things up for somebody else. So I don't know. Things just feel kind of odd. Now, I know Connor started getting, a little bit of a rhythm. Now, some of that was just, they started scheming some things open. The touchdown to Moose was a well-schemed play by Colin Klein. So I feel like Florida's going to watch that and go, yeah, that's not Miami. We're going to be okay. So A&M's got to do a better job. And again, it goes back to, guys getting lined up, guys doing the right thing. There's that 2 men in motion penalty early in the game where Moose and I think it was Allen are both starting in motion. So then Allen's got to go back and get set. And, well, at that point, 2 men in motion didn't really matter. But still, it's kind of the little things. So hopefully they've shaken all those things out. Getting the win and just putting some positive stuff on tape was good for them. But they really the receivers have got to work their guts out to get open a little bit more for Connor. He's getting a little bit better time. Guys have got to catch the football when it's thrown to him. I mean, Connor made a great play rolling to his left in the second quarter, and he hits 84 across. I mean, he does a great job and then doesn't hang on to it. So, I mean, all things have got to start clicking a little bit for this team. And I know Florida I don't think is all that good, but I think A&M to play its A+ ball game, there's some things that definitely got to get cleaned up. And I know you're going to ask me at some point about the A&M run defense. So you want to talk about that right now?
Go right ahead.
Or, yeah, okay. Because I saw a lot of vitriol. Now, obviously, I was up in Indianapolis, so I was just seeing things on Twitter and kind of seeing. I think somebody had written an article on TexAgs. So I got an email on that. I was like, okay. So I went into the game when I watched it thinking, okay, well, when's the kind of run breakdowns? And then I see it and I'm like, oh, okay. I see what's going on to a degree. When A&M it's pretty clear. When A&M is having breakdowns in the run game, it literally is somebody is just one person is not playing his technique the way it's supposed to. I'll give you a great example of that. The first run in the second quarter, I think it was. Yeah, second quarter. And McNeese gets outside the left side, right? So Nick is in a 5 technique. So he's outside the tackle. You got to set an edge. You have to contain the run. That's your main job, is set the edge. Why did he rip inside and let the tackle pin him inside? You got a downhill lane from the running back right outside. It ends up being a 15, 20-yard gain. Now, when teams have played together, linebackers understand when they're reading things, they see the defensive end jump inside. They automatically know, hey, he canceled my gap. I got to go exchange gaps with him. So it does take some, playing together to understand that. Like I used to see that with J.J. Watt a lot. J.J. used to do those things, but he played with guys long enough that those guys knew what to do, that if J.J. did one thing, he was going to do another. So when Nick jumps inside, he gets pinned, but where's the linebacker go? He goes right inside too. Well, now everybody's pinned inside, and now McNeese can hit outside. Now, the reason I know that wasn't a schemed up play, because McNeese came back to that same exact play a few plays later. And guess what Nick does? He sets the edge. He pins the tackle inside. He closes down the B gap. The linebacker fills where he should have been, and the run goes for 1 yard in the same exact play. It is a matter of doing the right thing all the time. You'll get your opportunities to rush your quarterback. You'll get your opportunities to rip inside and go beat a tackle in the pass game. But in the run game, you can't do things like that. So it's breakdowns. That was just one example. And I don't want to get on Nick. I think Nick Nick plays hard at all times. And when you play McNeese or a team like McNeese, you don't always get that. But it's just doing the right things, playing together for a little bit longer. The run fits. Sometimes when you're in a different defense, sometimes the runs fit a little differently than what the previous staff might have done. So you've got to figure all that out. But I think against Florida, you can start to get some of that stuff figured out. Montreal Johnson's a good running back. He's not a great running back. So I don't know that I worry too much about it, but you've got to do the little things a little bit better and cleaner than you've done them in the first 2 games to go beat Florida. And I think that A&M should beat Florida. A&M is more talented than Florida. A&M is better than Florida. Florida is just not a really good football team, especially if they're going to play a true freshman at quarterback. They should have an advantage in that realm. But A&M has to do the right things right, and then physically dominate the game. And I thought the run game looked much better, running a lot of counter, which I like, running some pin and pull stuff, which I like. So I felt like physically up front on the offensive line, even with some injuries, thought that looked pretty good. I just want the receivers to get open a little bit more. I want the game to be easier for Connor. That's what I want. I want the game to be easier for Connor. And if that can happen, then, A&M can start taking the strides that it needs to.
Johnny, we got to hit a break because we're at the end of the show. Just 30 seconds. Texans, that Colts game, goodness gracious, what a great game.
Well, we can thank Kenny Green for that. We talked about KG for a while. He, got an injury last year, and they said, look, rehab during the season, and then go build your body up in the offseason, and he did. And I'm telling you, he looked tremendous. It was so good to see him, and he looked even different than he looked at A&M. At A&M, he wanted to get in the phone booth and brawl with everybody, but he showed quick feet. He made some great blocks. He put Julian Blackman on his wall at one time, and it was like, yo. So he's starting to give us that needed attitude that we need. So it was good. Big game Sunday against the Bears. You can't slack off. The Bears got a good front as well. But I was really happy to see Kenyon Green play that way on Sunday, man. That was just, somebody come on TexAgs and followed him for a long time, man. It was really cool to see him do that.
Appreciate you, Johnny. Talk to you next week.
Yeah, man. See you, buddy.
FootballTakeover.com. Lewis Engineering Time, a machine shop located in Marshall, Texas. They want to be your premier metal fabrication supplier. They've been around since 1961. Lewis Engineering has supplied the defense, aerospace, automotive, oil field industries, and quality metal components. Doug Lewis, class of 2004, 4th generation to own and operate Lewis Engineering. A few other services include CNC matching, stamping, assembly, welding, plating, painting, salt spray testing. They are just a certified company who takes quality on-time delivery seriously. They specialize in high-volume production as well as close-tolerance projects. They invite you to outsource your machining company to many Fortune 500 companies. They have trusted them over the last 63 years. Doug's a great guy. I talked to him on the phone recently. Call him right now for a free quotation or free quote, 903-938-6754, or visit them online, lewisengineering.com. That's lewisengineering.com. Time to end the day with Double Days. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or, one large topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggie Land since 1984. They have your favorite pizza. They have your favorite world-famous pepperoni rolls. They have reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Do me a favor. Click on doubledays.com and your favorites are on their way. I lied. We have time for one fast text.
A fast text. Okay, we've got a...
That's not fast.
This isn't fast.
This is not fast at all.
It's not fast.
We still have 27 seconds.
Asking about how the Florida defense is going to match up against the Aggie offense.
Well, I'm glad you asked that because I'm going to do a whole breakdown today. If you're a premium subscriber, I talked to an insider. We'll talk a little bit about that. Their secondary, pretty good when healthy. They haven't been healthy. So that's something to watch out for. I'll tell you more on the premium board later on TexAgs.com. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you mañana.